Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wowhead Weekly number 236. We did not have a show last week, but since then, there has been so much Shadowlands talk that we are so excited to be back. There's been countless interviews. I believe someone threw the number 15 out in the air. Some of them videos, some of them phone calls, some of them written as well. And we have a beta coming up this week, actually. So there's a lot of things to talk about. And it's perfect that we are now live to be able to cover all of that. Before we get into anything, though, let me introduce myself. I am Annie, or also known as Annie Fuchsia. I stream World of Warcraft on Twitch and also work as a co host here on Wowhead Weekly. And my lovely co host here is Perculia.
Hey everyone, I'm Perk. We have a very busy, varied show between the Shadowlands developer update, special event servers with unique things to do on them, the collector's edition announced, a big data mining update with orc customization, and even the Shadows Rising novel. I was very grateful to be given an advanced review copy of it, so I've already read it, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the book. So yeah, we really have a lot. There's just been so much going on. We
Yeah.
also mentioned this before the stream officially started, but Annie and I are wearing matching shirts. We were given these by Blizzard for participating in the special Shadowlands event,
Yep. The
and
summit.
it's got the four covenants on it: the Venthyr, the Night Fae, the Necro Lord, and Kyrian.
Mm-hmm.
And the colors are really cool because they're not super cartoony and bright, so you can wear it normally or you can dress it up more like me if you like, and the colors still work.
Yeah, indeed. We were talking about this before, so those of you guys in the Twitch chat might find this repeating, but for others, let me say it again. I love how Perk has put it together with a fancy little jacket on top, a little flower thing going on there, making it look a lot more feminine and pretty. And then you have me going with the more lazy approach of just wearing a t shirt, and both works, whatever you
Yeah.
prefer. And it's awesome that the colors are subtle enough to be able to pull it off like that. So that's nice. And yeah, the shirts were part of the whole summit campaign. Do we call it a campaign? Maybe an event rather.
The
And
event.
the event, yeah.
Yeah.
The summit was, I'm not sure if you heard, but they were talking about how they planned for it initially to be an actual summit where they fly people in to try things out. But due to what's going on in the world right now, it became a digital or a virtual one. And I think it's the first of its kind. So, by Blizzard, that is. So, I think that was pretty cool to have an event like that.
And people weren't all sure how it works. Basically, there was the Ian and John Height stream, that was an hour. And then behind the scenes, as soon as that ended, a special event realm came up that we could do stuff on. So that's why, so many streamers were suddenly like, oh, like doing something important today. And then that had all the stuff Ian talked about, like the Venthyr Covenant and the Sanctums, the Soulbinds.
Mm-hmm.
And then the NDA dropped Thursday morning, so that's why you got a lot of interviews and coverage of it. People were allowed to, stream and do all that on this event realm. And then Friday, Blizzard removed those
The
special
NTA.
event realms for the press, and then they dropped more blogs explaining every covenant. So
Mm-hmm.
it was actually kind of like a 3 day event with lots of stuff going on. It sort of almost felt like BlizzCon, which I wasn't expecting at first. By the end, I'm just like, oh my god, there's so much stuff.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Together with the shirt, I got this little thank you note thing, and there's quite a few words here, but just the beginning of it. They say, "Thank you for joining us for our first ever digital summit for World of Warcraft Shadowlands. We enjoyed the chance to connect with everyone during these challenging times, and we're grateful for the opportunity to share what we've been working on with you and the amazing community of WoW players around the world. And included is a small token of our appreciation for taking time out of your hectic schedule to learn more about the game." And yeah, a little bit more. The World of Warcraft development team. So that was pretty cute too. It came together with the shirt. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Since my camera is mirrored, this is now mirrored too. So it doesn't say thank you. It says,
You have,
Yuri
yeah,
Kath.
as
Something like that. Whoops. Oh, yeah, that means our shirts are also mirrored with each other.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So Venthyr should be on the left, the red,
Yeah.
and Kyrian on the right.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Perk
but
is wearing
yeah,
it the right
so
way.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I figured we'll try to hit on the main topics. We obviously can't go over everything because like the show would be, 5 days long. But we figured we'd highlight some of the more interesting things we think you guys like, and we'll try to pause for questions if there's, a topic you would if there's a
Mm-hmm.
topic you would want us to cover. I don't want to super spill the beans, but I think that we're going to be discussing like systems and endgame more a lot next week with the guest. So we may save some of those discussions for next week, but there's still a ton to discuss.
Excuse me.
So
Mm-hmm. Yep. Indeed.
so yeah, so why don't we start with the actual dev update and the beta discussion and the collector's edition. So
Yeah, I think
beta
that
testing
sounds. Mm-hmm.
will start this week. We don't know when, but Monday and Tuesday are already done, so there's only 3 days left. So yeah, I think it's gonna be tomorrow. When do you think it's gonna be?
Yeah, I feel like Wednesday as well. Maybe I'm a little bit EU biased, but that's the reset day. So it feels like that's a good time to start it. Might be wrong though. Maybe they decided to not have it on reset day for EU or NA, so they do it on Thursdays. I really doubt it would be Friday, but yeah, either Wednesday or potentially early Thursday.
Yeah, I feel like when they do the data mining updates, they're always Wednesdays,
Mm-hmm.
unless like there's something buggy with the build, then it's Thursday. So I feel like they're gonna try to
Mm-hmm.
do it Wednesday, and
Mm-hmm.
if it fails, they'll have Thursday as the backup.
I like how I
Um,
have the perspective of gameplay. When does the week start? And you have the
right, I'm
perspective
like
of when the
US, I'm
data
like,
mining
oh,
happens.
yeah, yeah.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, so it's
Um,
probably going to be Wednesday then, unless there's something
yeah,
additional that they wanted to add on to it and then make it Thursday.
yeah. And they discussed at the event that beta testers can access things like the Maw level 60 experience, and all the stuff they previewed at the event, like Covenants, Soulbinds, max level dungeons. Raid testing is starting in July. So yeah, so we know beta testing is coming soon. I'm really sort of anxious to see all this testing because they dropped a lot of knowledge on systems in this blog that we haven't tested yet at all. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
sort of like, oh shit, like is this going to be Azurite again? I'm curious what, the path of ascension and the party and the flight network and the anima world quests and the renown, like how do all these fit together?
Yep.
So I'm happy they will have more testers on this.
Mm-hmm. At
Uh,
first glance, it does feel a little bit overwhelming with all the
yeah,
different systems, different new terms, especially when there's new terms for things that we're already used to, like missions or now adventures. So it does, at first glance, become very, very complicated. But once you sit down and like delve into it, it does feel a bit more, I guess, chewable. You can take it in a lot better. So I think once we start playing it, it will feel better.
yeah.
But yeah,
Like
we
as an
can jump
alpha
into.
tester,
Hmm.
it just felt a little overwhelming because
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like, we've been talking about this for several months, and like none of these things are things that we've ever seen on the alpha, so this
yeah,
it feels very unknown.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, for sure, sure.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I also, before we talk about the collector's edition, so we were all pretty sure that there was going to be some sort of release date.
Yes.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't share one, and I'm really curious what this means because they said, oh, it's fall 2020 again, but fall according to the business calendar goes until December 21st, so that's like, wow, like it could be anywhere until December.
Okay, well
uh
now we know the 9 days it's not going to be.
right. Yeah, I wonder if they're, with all these systems we haven't tested yet, if they might do something staggered, like maybe in October we get the leveling revamp, and then in the pre-patch, and then November we have an event like the Scourge event, and then in December we get Shadowlands, and stuff is staggered, so like all the end game Shadowlands stuff is really in January after there's more tuning. I just wonder how that's going to go because it was really strange they didn't announce a release date.
Yeah, I was really shocked and surprised. I was expecting it. At least I was expecting it at first. right after he was showing off the collector's edition physically.
Oh yeah, that's what they did with BFA. Like I think we covered that on a past stream, how they revealed the BFA release date along with the collector's edition.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then that didn't happen. So I was like, okay, maybe they're just, building up the hype a little bit and they'll mention it as the last thing before they go off. Like, the date is now up on the screen.
Right.
But no, nothing. And it's surprising because not only did we expect this event to potentially mention it even on the original date a month ago, but now the fact that it was postponed for a whole month, it felt like the perfect time to mention a date. Do you think it's because they're not 100% sure yet?
Yeah, I think they're just worried about complications across the world. Like, maybe one thing is fine, but they're testing a new type of, driver or software with an external, game company, and there's like more testing that has to be coordinated, or shipping things, or localization in other countries. So I'm just wondering if they're figuring out like how much is actually coming at Shadowlands launch or in the
Mm-hmm.
pre-patch.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, like
Um,
which parts of the game comes before and then which
right.
parts
Like
comes after.
maybe I remember with BFA, BFA was the first time they really did time gating. A lot of people were like, why can't I do everything in BFA in the first week? Because in Legion it just was this huge pile of info. So I feel like with the Shadowlands, maybe they would, I don't know, like stagger things a little more, or the mini games, for example, like the four different mini games, which we'll talk about, how they seem like very convoluted and all different, and I'm just like, I don't
Yeah,
see how
yeah.
I can see like little parts being added later, but I was also confused they didn't announce a release date, because normally they tie these announcements to in-person events like Gamescom or PAX East, places that generate gaming hype,
Mm-hmm.
and it's harder to do that when you're not when you're all digital. And I thought they would have taken the digital momentum from all of these interviews and hype, and tie the release date into that.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like it's gonna be hard to hype up a little small event like this again before Shadowlands, so it felt very fitting for it to be right now. But maybe it simply is too difficult to choose a date right now and then not want to disappoint or feel like anything has to be rushed.
Yeah, like we were just discussing before uh we officially started the show, how some parts of the world are returning back to normal, but California never got the pandemic under control, and the cases are really expanding, and places are opening up like Disneyland even, which is not good.
Yeah.
uh and Blizzard is located in California, which they've been like, the cases are not going down, schools are opening. In my town, restaurants opened up for a week and then were told to basically shut down again. Like everything is up in the air.
So it's actually going like up and down, like immediately.
Yeah,
Opening and
so it's
shutting.
very hard to plan things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think it's probably something to do with that. I mean, at the end of the day, I think we all would rather want the game to work than the release date to be rushed. Um, it's it's just I'm wondering how they're going to make the release date feel exciting without the lack of an event, like you mentioned. But
My
maybe it's not that
guess,
important. Mm-hmm.
yeah, my guess is that cinematics always get a lot of hype.
Oh yes, that's
And we
true.
never got a cinematic with this event either. So if they drop another cool cinematic tied to the release date, I think that could be hype. Like,
Mm-hmm.
remember when they dropped the Sour Fang cinematic with Old
Yes.
Soldier? That was actually tied to an Asian convention. Like
Mm-hmm.
people, we don't really cover the China Joy event
Yeah.
in Western media, but the cinematic was really hype on its own, that it went viral regardless. So if they did a cinematic like that, and at the end you have the numbers flashing, I think
Oh,
that
yes. I'm already excited now. No, that's actually a very good point. When was the last cinematic, actually? Was Old Soldier the last one? No.
no, well, the last like high resolution one
Yeah,
was the at the BlizzCon with Sylvanas and Bolvar. That was the last one. So it's been a while.
gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that one was really good.
So
Wasn't there one of the interviews where they were asked whether there's going to be any Warbringers, and they said maybe.
Oh yeah, so that's something slightly different. So the like the Sylvanas and Bolvar, that's like super high resolution, high
Yeah,
definition,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Warbringer is
realistic.
smaller, but
Warbringers
mm-hmm,
is I love Warbringers too. Like
mm-hmm,
Warbringers, I think the official term is like 2.5D animation
mm-hmm.
because
Okay.
like they're moving around,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't look realistic. It's sort of
Yeah, and
like
they're
a
kind of still as well.
collage.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I believe someone asked, and yeah, they were told that they don't have details to share yet, but it's likely they'll do something similar. And it's a tradition that goes back to Mr. Pandaria, how they focus on a few characters in this very artistic, stylized video format, and
Mm-hmm.
it's very sort of like introspective. It's different than a lot of other stuff in WoW, and they
Mm-hmm.
always highlight a few major characters. So it would be interesting to see who would get that treatment this time.
Do
I
those
think I
normally
think
start in the
Bolvar.
pre-patch?
Yeah, I think Sylvanas, because that was such the burning of Teldrassil, that was like right when the pre-patch started, we got hers.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Because I thought at first that the Warbringers was like once the expansion was out.
Yeah,
So I thought maybe it's a special case where the Warbringers are coming out earlier as part of the
right.
pre-patch, but maybe it's a normal thing then. Um, but yeah, I guess having a real cinematic then, and then potentially a Warbringer together with an epic pre-patch, because I think it's going to be a really really interesting one with having to go to Northrend and the Shadowlands opening and everything. I think this pre-patch will be very special in many ways, like lore-wise, visual-wise, and also gameplay-wise because of the squish. We are, for the first time ever, squishing our levels. We're all going back to level 50.
Yep.
So
Eye level and level squish.
yeah, yes, eye level and level squish. So I think it's going to be a very special pre-patch in that sense. So I think, yeah, having. Do you think it's possible that the release date will be together with the pre-patch launching, or do you think it would be before?
I think they could maybe do that. Like now that everyone I feel like a lot of people maybe stopped playing WoW, like they took advantage of the buff and now they have so many characters, they're taking a break again.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like with the pre-patch, people are getting back and they're like, oh, there's no Lich King, the undead are everywhere again. That could maybe generate some hype for people to
Mm-hmm.
want to do this. Or I don't know, maybe Blizzard is even holding out hope that they could do something more elaborate with production if things get better in a few months to do, a
Mm-hmm.
bigger release announcement too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the pre-patch could be a pretty interesting one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we did get collector's edition news, which we also assumed we were getting. And I'm pretty happy with this. Well, I mean, not really the price, but I'm happy that about what was included in it. So
But you're
the
not
bad
happy with the
news,
payment part of it?
well, it's more expensive than in the
Yeah, no,
past,
I'm joking.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's especially if you're international, the rates are pretty
Mm-hmm.
extreme. Like the physical collector's edition is 120 and international is at least 165.
Oof.
Um, and I know
Yeah.
a lot of people do not want a price increase, dealing with the stress of the pandemic. Um,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
but on the bright side,
How much were the old ones, if you remember?
I think 99.
Gotcha. Okay.
But you could argue that this one has more stuff or more things players are interested in compared to the BFA one. So the BFA one had the Teldrassil novellas, which had some art, but they weren't, focused on being an art book. Um, and it had that medallion for the Alliance and Horde
Oh
and a
yeah.
mouse pad.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, in comparison, they realized people really like art books. So there's a Shadowlands art book again. And it comes with 4 collector's edition pins, and I know pin collectors, love stuff, so getting 4 at once is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And the digital soundtrack and mousepad. And the box looks really cool too. Like it's all different colors.
Yeah, it was like shimmering when he was moving it around.
Yeah, it was showing like the sky breaking and ice crowns. So you can tell like more production went into this.
Mm-hmm.
But which explains if you're getting a book and 4 pins versus, a paperweight, it will cost more. But, still people are, international seems really steep.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's, I mean, I'm probably going to get it to add to my collection. I started collecting them not super in the past just because I didn't have a lot of spare cash, and these two actually got gifted to me, which was awesome. But yeah,
It's kind of small. So which ones do you have there?
oh, sorry. I've got Legion. Actually,
Mm.
I went to a signing event, so my box is signed by
Oh,
everyone.
that's so cool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's fun. Then I got this was the 15-year anniversary one
Oh,
that
yeah,
has
yeah,
the
yeah.
Renown statue, who is, I don't think you can see him, but he's over there. And then I got the BFA box.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So, and then I also have the Warcraft 3 box that I imported from China because
Oh,
I
I
wanted
remember. Mm-hmm.
the statue. And why is it
Warcraft 3 is kind of an
so
awkward topic at the moment too. There's like no updates
yeah.
going on.
Oh, we'll just not put the box up. My arm is not tall
I think
enough
I
to
have
put
the
the
same
box
ones
up.
as you. I think I have the
Yeah.
same ones as you. I don't have. So do you not have any of the previous ones?
No, actually, I I nearly got a Mop Collector's Edition.
Mm-hmm.
But then I had a friend that did a lot with Mop, so I gave the box to the friend.
Aw, that's
But in
nice.
retrospect, I'm like, oh, like I would have, you know, in retrospect, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, Mop was like cool for me too. Like that's what I, like was more full time at my job. Like that would have been cool to
Yeah.
have the box. But yeah, I've just been gifted those recent three. So
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
I
I.
still have the
It's the
memories
same
from
for
the
me.
past expansions.
Mm-hmm.
Those, are
Mm-hmm.
priceless memories.
Of course.
But yeah.
Yeah, the MOP one, so I got it digitally. I'm guessing maybe you did as well. I'm not sure. But I did not really have the means to buy all the other boxes too. And it's kind of sad because the older that the expansions are, the even more expensive they are if you'd want to
Oh
buy them
yeah,
now.
yeah.
So it's like that's a shame. But yeah,
I
that's what
even
it is.
remember I have this memory of Wrath where I was
Oh,
at a
you're lagging.
convenience store. What are you doing, baby?
Um,
It's, this,
you are completely gone. Let me check what connection we're on. Give me 1 second.
okay.
I'm gonna quickly go. Oops, I did not mean to do that. Sorry. I was gonna go full screen on myself so I can quickly check the settings here on the Discord. Let's see. Yeah, it's Europe. I'm gonna change it to US East. I think that should fix it. Testing? No. The stream is not lagging, right? It's not on my end, I think. Let me see. I'm gonna hang up on her and start again. Stream is fine. Okay. Okay, I can see you now.
Cool.
And hear you.
All right. It's good.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I changed the
I
server to
right
US East now.
he was overeating something.
Yeah, I don't know. It could have been the connection was set to Europe, so that might have not been ideal
Okay.
either. Okay, you were
I
saying.
also put the light on. But yeah, I was but I remember I was saying I had this memory of the day Wrath came out, and I was at the convenience store, and I was buying practical things and thinking, oh, I could not buy practical things and buy this collector's edition that I'm seeing at the
Yeah,
checkout line, and then I was like, no, I need to like go
by
be
the important
responsible and
things.
buy cleaning supplies. But I
Yeah.
always just picture this box and being like, nah, do I want? And then now I'm like, oh, maybe. But
Oh no, it's
um,
going away again. Feels bad. Hmm. Okay, this time I'm not gonna shock you guys with the intro video. Let me see here. What's going on? Alicia left us smiling. Yeah. Perk always smiling. Um. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I changed to US South. I'm not sure if that makes a difference, but
I
maybe.
just went and touched my router and it feels like it's boiling because it's 100 degrees here. So,
Oh my
I
god.
the equipment is melting. But I just tried to move the wires apart so not as many things were touching each other.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
hopefully that helped. I'm not sure, but yeah,
Yeah.
we have it now. Bright paws, no sit, Bright Paw, no.
Yeah, 100 Fahrenheit, but that's still very hot. I believe that's like 40 degrees Celsius,
Yeah,
which is
like
not
I have the
something we
air conditioner
experience in
on,
Sweden.
but like it's just stuffy, so I'm touching the box and it feels a lot more than
Mm-hmm.
it's like a chain reaction.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully me separating things and moving the cat away should help with the overheating if that caused it.
Hopefully. Hopefully, yes.
But yeah, where were we? I think collector's
Collector's
edition.
editions, yes. You were telling the story of the Wrath box that you saw in the store.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
being practical. I didn't buy the box,
Yeah.
but I always,
Trying to be an
like
adult.
you don't think at the time
Yeah.
that you could be a person that maybe would collect things, or your
Yeah,
your
of
peers would
course.
have all the boxes, and you're like, oh, it's just weird when you look back over 10 years and
Yep.
you're like, hey, it would have been useful.
And imagine you'd bought two and then you'd sell one and then you'd make more
Yeah.
money. It's like,
So
so many things you don't know. But it happens.
yeah.
It is what it is. Stefan is in the chat. Shout out to Stefan.
Hey, Stefan.
Great job on the data mining things.
Yeah, it was really funny when we talk about the data mining because the we knew it could be data mined, and Start asked us if we could hold off posting about it because they would have preferred all the data to go live with when the NDA lifted.
Yeah.
And but then not I don't think they realized it was public because you know anyone can data mine, and Blizzard can't reach out to every single person asking them not to data mine. So then we were like, hey, Blizzard, everyone's posting this. And then Blizzard's like, oh, yeah, I guess you can post about it. And that was right in the middle of the developer update. So we are live vlogging while, data mining at the same time. It was very stressful.
Yeah, sorry. Apparently my phone sometimes causes. Sorry. Yeah, I think it's my phone. I'm not sure. My microphone sometimes buzzes. I threw my phone
Oh, I
away.
heard that. Yeah, I
You
was
heard it
like, oh
too.
no. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, please don't have this be me again.
Yeah. No, it's not an internet thing. It's my microphone sometimes does that, and it seems to help when I throw the phone away. So I did. Wait, so you mean the special server that was up for the people who signed the NDA was data mineable?
Yeah, to everyone. And because we were invited
Gotcha.
to the event, Blizzard was like, we would prefer if it wasn't up, when we prefer if you could, release the info
Yeah.
when people can talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw the alert and we actually held off for, 30 minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
then my coworkers are like, well, how come like I see, like 10 like
Other,
other
yeah,
yeah, and then they're like, yeah, it didn't work out how we wanted. It's okay to post the
the data
the
mining.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Gotcha.
So but that just was really funny,
Yeah, yeah,
awkward timing.
yeah. Yeah. Like something they didn't
So
consider.
yeah, it's like it could not have happened. It's like, oh, this is like BlizzCon level live vlogging, except there's a build in the middle of it too.
Yep. Yep,
With
yep.
things people care about, like legendaries.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so why don't we talk about some of the main things we learned from the event? And like I said, if you think that we didn't cover something that you would have liked us to, I'm sure we have an article or something we can give you more information on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, feel free to
So,
ask any questions as we jump into the things. The big world of the covenants.
sorry, one sec.
No worries. Um, the first thing with the first thing with covenants is that you see Bright Paw's tail on the screen.
Yeah,
Now the first things with the
Covenant
covenants
Sanctums.
is that
Yeah.
you choose one, and once you've chosen it, you get access to the covenant sanctum of the chosen covenant. And within these sanctums, you have a lot of smaller parts of it, smaller branches of it. I
Yeah.
have some pictures to
So,
share too.
yeah. So the Covenant Sanctum lets you do stuff like you get a transportation network within the zone, and they all do the same thing but have different flavors. Like there's like a blood mirror system for the Venthyr, but in Maldraxxus you can make an abomination mount to carry you around, which is pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
There is an anima conductor which is tied to dailies you open up. There is the mission table system, which is now the adventure system, like an auto battler. Uh, the Covenant Sanctum is needed to get Soulbinds and Conduits. You have your signature and class ability. And then you even have these unique features like the Venthyr throws a party, while the in Bastion, your champion like fights the souls of bosses on your behalf.
Mm-hmm.
And there's even a system called Renown, which we'll explain a little bit more in a few minutes, where you everything you unlock, like your armor, your mounts, your pets, are tied to the level of Renown, and you can earn that weekly. So that's a lot of systems we have not tested yet that,
Yep.
I just listed off.
Mm-hmm. That is indeed a lot of systems. And then we have this very pretty picture that I wanted to share as well. I am Brightpaw is in the back, getting ready to knock everything down.
Yeah, no, don't eat her sheep right
Oh,
now.
seems safe so
So
far.
yeah. So yeah, I think they had the Venthyr open for testing, and not all parts were available, like the transportation network wasn't, but basically all of these things are tied to upgrading your renown.
Yep.
And it feels like we were talking about how it seems complex, but maybe when you try it out it seems easier, because a lot of this just felt like it sort of reminded me of Animal Crossing. Like when your house is a certain level, you can, you know,
Getting
do
access
more
to more
things, or
things.
wait,
Yeah.
yeah, when you upgrade something, you can access more content.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Ian mentioned like this was sort of staggered out. So like you unlock something and then there's a little tutorial and then you access the new system. So it shouldn't feel overwhelming. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
these things, it's like, oh, transportation network, oh, something to open world quest.
Mm-hmm.
They seem pretty simple once you think about it. It just
Mm-hmm.
seems overwhelming when you're like, this
Mm-hmm.
building is tied to 5 things and I don't know any of them.
Yep. Yep.
So I mean, I think it's a perception thing.
Because it's, I mean, it's new terms first of all. So
Hmm.
there's lots of new names for a lot of different things, and then there's new visuals, new UIs for things. Things look pretty fancy, like the Renown one looking like this. You can see the different levels at the bottom there. But if you once you play it, I think it becomes quite simple, I guess, and intuitive. The way that I see Renown is kind of like Reputation almost. I think
Hmm.
in one of the interviews, one of the devs actually accidentally called it Reputation. That was funny. So it's I think things become easier once you get into it a little bit more. And I don't think that we should be too afraid of having too many systems at the beginning, because I think that was the problem with BFA. We had too few systems and then became like system on top of system after that. So I think with the Shadowlands, the way it seems is that we're gonna have all these systems, and then later on, the systems will just branch out a little bit within those systems. So once you get used to it, and which hopefully we all can, once the beta is coming out and more people get invited, more feedback, etc., I think these systems will feel okay. At least, as a sort of general thing on top of it. Then, of course, there's more things detailed within them that can be discussed, such as conduits. We'll get to that. But yeah, like the Renown system, for now, this is what we have seen as a screenshot. And it's something that you gain as you do pretty much anything, right? As you do different contents.
There's a weekly cap, and I think they were saying that if you go out and do some weekly quest to bring anima and souls
Mm-hmm.
back from the maw, you can earn some renown.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, if you get like more anima after you do your basics, the anima can go to other things like, healing up your auto battlers from adventures,
Mm-hmm.
other cosmetic things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if you are behind on renown, you will see more sources of renown drop from activities like if you complete a dungeon or do a world quest, you may have like extra renown items drop.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is that there's like a weekly amount, so
Yeah. So if
you
you
can't,
stick to mm-hmm.
if you just stick to the basic activities and you do them every week, you will do that. And it shouldn't be like, oh, I'm doing 20 hours of renown world quest straight to max things out before the raid opens. You can't really do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. So you do the sort of simple activities of the weekly
Hmm.
quests, for example,
Yeah.
to get your renown up in the right power. And if you're behind, you're not farming island expeditions. What you're doing is doing the content that you prefer. It sounds like it's an option thing. Like you will gain it in things like dungeons, for example, or other activities too. So it seems like there is a main source of renown, which is the main way of getting it. But if you are behind, you will be able to catch up doing like a variety of other types of content. And yeah, the renown is the main source that gives you access to a lot of things like upgrading your sanctum, also increasing levels for world quest gear, legendary recipes, and cosmetic things as well, like mounts and pets.
Yeah, and while it can be sort of interchanged with rep, people are basically saying, oh, this is, the Covenant reputation, one important difference is the catch-up mechanisms that are already talked about being in
Mm-hmm.
place. Um, like, I know if someone takes a break and then they have to do reps with Pathfinder, they just have to, grind out the reps. But with Renown, it seems that if Renown is the requirement for Pathfinder in place of reputation and you have the catch-up mechanisms, it won't feel as punishing to
Yeah, yeah.
work on those things.
And I think if you've taken a break, you probably kind of want to do those extra dungeons anyways,
Yeah.
for the gear or whatever you might have been missing. So I think that's fair enough. I think what would suck is feeling like you have to, grind the same content more times to catch up. Because that's another issue, I think, with Horrific
Yeah.
Visions, too. Like if you've been doing your. Main weekly assaults, you might have lots and lots of coalescing visions like I do on my alts, but I don't want to sit there and do 20 visions in a row to catch up with everything.
Hmm.
But if I could just stick to, doing my weekly Mythic Pluses and doing my weekly PvPs, and in that way start gaining upgrades for my cloak, for example, if I'm behind in rank, that would
Yeah,
actually be more
you need
preferable.
to like buy 30 Malefic cores to catch up on it.
Yeah, which is way too expensive right now.
Yeah.
um, so I mean, it was a good idea that they put it on the vendor, but I think it's a little bit too expensive and takes away your chance of buying corruptions. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think for now, Renown sounds like a better version of Reputation, and it looks interesting, has a cool UI, and yeah, we'll see what more it entails
Thinking
in the beta.
about how some of the renown is tied to um unlocking more of your soulbinds or conduits, that could also be an interesting way of dealing with tuning. Like suppose the bottom powers in a soulbind tree or OP, but it's going to require, many months of renown, covenant grinding to unlock. Blizzard doesn't have to worry about tuning the raids around those OP abilities when the raid first releases. They still have time to fine tune something that sounds really cool but could also be broken during progression.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they haven't revealed the levels everything is revealed at. But maybe if you have like the easier, more straightforward soulbind stuff and like the mount and pet and armor at lower levels, and then you have the more technical things that require tuning later on. That could be a way to do things to um, help with the looming release date and potential tuning issues. Sort of like time gate all the stuff that could be trickier to tune.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, right now just the vent there is available. I also wanted to say before we talk more about Soulbinds that when everyone's talking about all these different systems going on, there are some hot topics with Soulbinds and conduits for sure and concerns, but there are different types of players and people that want to, grind out a transportation network or like things like the Brawlers Guild or like Chromie Time and want a fun mini game such as the Vent Their Ember Court Party. Those things are important as well, and shouldn't have the same reaction of, a gear progression system, because they're not. They're more flavor things, for solo players to do sort of exploration around the world, like mini puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Soulbinds. So these are,
Yeah.
yeah.
Big topic.
Uh, yep. So, I mean, what we learned about Soulbinds was that on this event realm, the Venthyr Soulbinds were available, and the conduits, which you can sort of socket into them like gems for a very limited amount of classes. We learned more about how they worked. Some good news. Respecking your Soulbind will not really cost that much. It's meant to be really easy to swap between your 3 Soulbinds available in the Covenant. Uh, the conduits are all pretty straightforward modifications to class abilities versus wacky things. But then the thing which is causing a lot of contention is that conduits are like gems, where you put the item into the device, and if you want to replace one, that will destroy the existing one. And the Soulbind tree is not saved per spec. It's just one tree per class. So if you are, tanking and then you're going to DPS and you want to use DPS conduits or, boost other abilities, you will have to permanently destroy your tanking ones, which could be a problem if you're going back to, tanking the next boss in the raid
Mm-hmm.
after that. Then you need tank conduits on hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
I'm not.
that is the big topic.
Yeah, I think there's multiple sides of it too. Like, I think, okay, the fact that the conduits are destroyed is kind of I don't know if worrying is the term, but um, seemingly annoying and tedious, because it sounds like the conduits aren't supposed to be difficult to obtain. Some people were originally worried that, hey, if I want the PvP conduit, look, I'm not very good at PvP, so I'm never gonna get it. I think they will generally be quite easy to get. Just winning an arena game sometimes gives you loot, no matter what rating. Instead of loot, you might get the conduit, right? So it doesn't really matter. You're not supposed to go and get 2.4
To
in order to get the
clarify with
conduit.
that too, I think it's going to be even better, because they say that the conduits are an improvement over relics, because with the relic you could get the relic in
Oh,
place of
yeah.
other loot, but the
Yes,
conduit
that's true.
is in addition to that.
Yes, that is true.
So
Mm-hmm.
it should not be
It's
as
separate
like
loot.
yeah, easy. It should be easier to get, at least.
Yeah,
But
that is true.
when the conduits available are just from a test vendor, and you hear from Blizzard, oh, this new system, where you can't test drop rates. These weird new conduits get destroyed when you resocket when you want to change specs. The optics were not amazing on that.
No, no. Because that's the thing. Even if the conduits are relatively simple to get, it's still annoying to have to switch around. And honestly, I'm not sure about the perspective that the soulbind should be the same for every spec. I think they should change
Right.
for every spec. I think that's
Yeah.
one of the main things that I look at, and I'm like, I'm not convinced that this is going to be good. Because then you're kind of forced to have. They talk about the soulbinds being different loadouts, right? And that means you're kind of forced to have a loadout specifically for a spec, and you can't really try other things out. Like, what if you want to be a tank sometimes and have a single target tanking build, and then
Hmm.
like maybe like a more AoE type of tanking build, and maybe like a third one, right? Um,
Right.
but if you go DPS spec, maybe it doesn't fit anymore because you took a few more of the more like tanky parts of the tree that you would not be interested in as a DPS. And I'm not entirely convinced yet that it would work. I feel like they should change with your spec, just like
Yeah.
our
So
essences did.
Yeah, so I will say that Blizzard says like this is still actively being discussed,
Mm-hmm.
but they also said in one interview that they want to make they feel like it's okay that someone that specializes in one type of gameplay has a small edge. That person can just like, if they just want to be a certain type of DPS, then they should benefit from someone that is benefits from the versatility, and they think that there's some value in doing that, and they know that members of the community disagree with their opinion on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I
So
do see the
yeah.
point that maybe it could work. because maybe a specific build towards AoE would actually work for both DPS and tanking, right? And it
Right.
would be very minor differences in that sense. But just at first look at it, it feels like since it's a loadout, it would make sense to be different for the different specs. But I guess we'll see, and that's what the beta testing will be for.
Yeah, I mean, Ian claims that, they want players to feel comfortable swapping between soulbinds or soulbind paths whenever they want, and that's easy. And they don't want the conduit acquisition process to be something people have to worry about swapping. So maybe that means that they'll be really plentiful to get if they want to encourage people changing their soulbinds frequently.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Um,
I don't see having conduits destroyed go together with having soul binds easily changeable,
right.
because then,
Yeah.
or I guess if the topic is rather change between the different soul binds and not really change within the soul bind, maybe the idea is that once you choose a branch in the soul bind you will kind of keep it, but then you could change within them, like between the
The way the
different.
path is, it's not like oh, I'm gonna unlock everything in the first or then everything in the second. Like you have to pick a path.
Yeah.
So like on one row you could have three different conduits socketed, but your path will only activate one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So if instead of being like, oh, I need to resocket conduit A with conduit B, you could just say, well, I'm gonna socket both of them and I'm gonna reroute my path from A, on the left side of the calculator to B in the middle side of the calculator.
Okay, so you can easily switch the paths, but the
Yeah,
conduits are destroyed if you would change them. Okay.
right. And
Interesting.
like there
Makes
still could be
sense.
reason to want to change them. Like
Mm-hmm.
the conduits, they're not it's not just like, oh, you can stick anything in. Like certain conduit slots are for like DPS conduits, or certain ones are for utility. So
Mm-hmm.
if you want to swap between DPS and DPS, then you might have to replace one. But if you go between DPS and utility, you can just change the path. You can have both sort of like dormant in the calculator at the same time.
Gotcha. So if you go to your sanctum, you can change your path, I'm assuming, in that case.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Hmm.
then if you're out, like you're just about to start a Mythic Plus, you can just switch entire Soulblind.
I think so. They
Like
say
you're
they're
switching
still,
specs.
yeah, they're still saying that they're looking at feedback and they might allow more stuff to happen outside of the Covenant Sanctum too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right now
So
it's really difficult to say whether it's 100% convincing that the conduits being destroyed is a good idea or not. But from what it sounded like, their idea is that the conduits shouldn't need to be replaced. You have so many paths and so many different ways of choosing the build, and then you also have different soul binds, so you won't really need to. But I guess that's what the testing will help us find
yeah,
out.
I mean, they also keep saying that they're not exactly like relics, they're more like gems. And, gems are destroyed on use, and I don't think people have been complaining about, gem shortages or, losing gems as much as they used to. So if it's a similar, um,
But you can buy those off the
easy.
auction house, though.
Right. Well, I don't know. Maybe there'll be like a lot of crafted soul binds, or like you could end up, I don't know, buying some, or they'll be super easy to get like conduits from World Quest.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think there will be some conduits from World Quests, but then some of
yeah.
them I think are going to be tied to different activities, like the PvP activity, the raiding activity. Then again, I guess if you're already raiding a lot, then maybe you'll end up getting many of them. Are you? Is
Right.
it something which is unique? Can you only carry one?
Uh, we're not sure yet. I'm not exactly sure
Yeah,
how
I'm not
that
sure either.
works yet.
But I guess the idea
Um,
is that if you'd want to change it and you're already raiding, then it shouldn't be difficult for you to keep getting that
right.
same conduit. So, um, and people being worried about wanting a conduit that's from a different source, I think they are specifically trying to make the conduit so it fits the content. So if it's something that's acquired in PvP, it should be good for PvP,
Yeah, they're
and
all
a
pretty
raider shouldn't really
straightforward.
want to have it.
It's not meant to be as elaborate as essences,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, oh, the thing with like, this does 10 different things and it's all tied, to PvP. This is just like makes your ability hit, 1% harder.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's a lot more simplistic compared to the
Mm-hmm.
essences.
Mm-hmm.
Another hot topic was the legendary system. We got a little glimpse at the UI, and the data mining added a lot more. Um, and we actually asked Ian some questions about this in a group interview we had. Because, we're data mining all these legendaries, and there are sort of intricate utility ones, but there's also really good DPS ones. So we asked him, why would people want to why would people want to equip a utility legendary over a DPS one? Like, how are you going to prevent, the same issue as Legion, where
Yep.
people were only excited over, the popular DPS one? And Ian was basically talking about how you can craft things in Shadowlands. So the difference is the player agency. Instead of, you randomly getting one and being disappointed it's the wrong type, you can choose which to craft. And while you can only equip one, you can, craft all of them. And crafting should be a faster process than the, RNG acquisition in Legion.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, yeah, you'd likely want to craft the amazing DPS one as your first one, but if you're raiding, maybe if you have a certain utility role, you could choose to craft a utility one as the secondary one. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, you can grow your collection how you want, as opposed to being, disappointed that you got the
Got the
wrong
wrong
one.
one, yeah. And on top of that, it's also account wide, right? Like once you unlock a recipe, you have it unlocked for the whole account.
Yeah. So, I mean, the actual legendary is not account wide, but
No.
the crafting is.
Yeah.
So, and Blizzard also said that, if it's such that the utility perk doesn't feel powerful, then that's a problem on their end too. I didn't put this in the notes, but this sort of reminds me of something that came up in a really recent interview where Ian was also talking about how, if a corruption effect is so OP, like Infinite Stars, um, it feels bad when something not tied to skill is like the most desirable choice.
Yep.
So I feel like it's a parallel where Blizzard is realizing that if a random proc is OP or a DPS one is OP in all situations over things that are more like nuanced or interesting, then
Mm-hmm.
Blizzard has to make those better.
Yeah, yeah. I remember it was actually worded really nicely because it was specified that if a random proc or random damage, random dot, ends up being the highest source of damage on a very skillful player, then there is something wrong because a skillful player should be able to use their skill to be able to, maybe the way that they do their rotation, the way that they play the class in general, like that should be what determines what is on top of the damage meters. But if even for a top player, these TD procs or infinite start procs or gushing wounds is at the top, that means that those are too highly tuned.
Feel good it's from a position of player agency, like, oh, I'm gonna hit fireball hoping that it procs, four random things.
Yeah.
It feels like you are not really in control
No.
of your character.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so hopefully they are learning from all this and will make Legion legendaries more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they also, were talking about acquisition being faster than in Legion, and I know people were like very impatient about those in Legion, so hopefully that's another improvement.
I remember
They
people leveling two characters, gearing two
Yeah,
characters because of that first legendary, which had a slightly higher chance, I think, from
yeah,
dropping.
they're like, oh, like, will I get lucky with my first legendary? Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't. Time to
Okay,
pick
next
another
druid.
character.
Yeah. I
Yep,
remember people do that. It's like, oh, my fourth alt has the good legendary. So this is the character
yeah,
that I'll be playing. Especially for top end raiders, they would do that. It was actually
yeah.
crazy.
There was also they talked about how the legendary power recipes will have unlocks similar to essences, so that won't be RNG. You'll know exactly what you need to do to unlock that special power, which
Mm-hmm.
seems good as well because you don't. I was worried. I didn't want it to be like, oh well, it's not RNG. You can craft it, but the recipe is RNG. Like you don't want that to be just RNG in a different part. So that seems good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think we might have mentioned it, but also he just reiterated that the base legendary item that you stick the power onto, that will be made only by crafters, and they hope it makes, tailoring and leatherworking and blacksmithing feel relevant in a way they haven't really been since, Burning Crusade. Like, those professions are just like disenchant fodder.
Yeah.
Like, alchemy or enchanting has value through an expansion, but the crafted gear just feels like no one wants to wear it because it's not
Mm-hmm.
as good as other things.
Mm-hmm. I also miss jewel crafting being a bit more interesting. Like with I feel like
Yeah.
the the market for gems has just crashed compared to before. I'm not sure why it is. Maybe it's feeling better now that people have more sockets. I don't know. I'm not a
Yeah.
jewel crafter myself, but I just feel like jewel crafting used to be a lot more interesting before, or a lot more
Yeah, I
sought
mean, also
after.
you had more vanity things in past expansions, like Mop had the Voltron mounts with jewel crafting. So
Oh
you
yeah, I
always,
remember.
wanted one jewel crafter around. Or like, Gems did more interesting things as well when they were, going back a ways. The meta gems in
Mhm.
Helms as well.
Mhm.
And like the color requirements you needed to activate the meta,
Mhm.
that whole gem mini
Mhm.
game.
Yeah, I remember actually. Oh yeah, I think those colors were fun actually.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'll
Well, I
bring
guess
them
we'll be
back.
getting that back soon if they ever do Burning Crusade Classic.
Yeah, more likely to see it in classic Burning Crusade than the
Yeah.
real game. Um, yeah, because one of the things that I notice is the price of gems. So when I buy a gem, many of them cost like 5 gold. So it can't really be that worth for a jewel crafter to craft and sell them. I don't know. I might be wrong. Maybe jewel crafting is doing well, but it feels like it's not.
Yeah. I think jewel crafting is tied to the legendaries as well. Like I think that there's like a base legendary neck you can make and a ring. I'm not 100% sure
Oh.
because
Mm-hmm.
that part wasn't open for testing it. It just was a very like basic UI where you basically stick the crafted item in, you select your
Mm-hmm.
power at one point, you select a secondary stat, and then you can also inscription can make something to increase the item level of the legendary.
Okay,
So
that's cool.
it seems like pretty basic right now, but at least we got to see the UI that it was coming along.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there was a lot of like really technical info on Torghast that I'm not sure fits the flow of the show, but I think I wanted to touch on the keys with
Yeah.
Torghast at least.
Yes, that's a big one,
So,
and it
uh,
changed based on feedback.
yeah, originally Torghast, the competitive mode required a key, but they heard feedback. Players wanted to run it as much as they wanted. All keys have been removed from Torghast. You can play it as much as you want because it's fun, and rewards will be adjusted so that you won't be encouraged to grind endlessly. It really feels like Blizzard is trying not to have people grind, maybe as like a lesson learned from island expeditions.
Mm-hmm.
Between what they said about, Renown and quests and now Torghast and grinding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
I think that's a really
yeah,
cool
it seems
change.
good.
Yeah, giving people access because they had a very specific process. I think right. It was like you have to farm this thing to get this thing to get this item, and
Yeah, it
that's
was
the
like you
item that
do
you're using to
things.
do the Torghast.
It was something to the effect that you would have to like get the you would have to do stuff in the maw to get in, and then you would increase your strength of spending time in the maw by getting currency from the other four zones.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like you were constantly going back to the four zones to
Yep.
get enough currency to
Mm-hmm.
survive in the outdoor mall, to,
Yep.
then get the mall currency to buy the Torghast key. And
Mm-hmm.
it was like a lot of going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh yeah, and the
maybe
fact that
by,
you can't be in the mall forever because of the debuff.
right,
So yeah, yeah, it was such a annoying process.
right. It also seems like maybe they simplified Torghast, and that's why they're trying to make the Sanctums more interesting in their own way now that they don't have to work on this elaborate back and forth system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
We
so
still
you
don't
can
know
play
what the
Torghast as
rewards
much as
are,
you
though.
want. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's like, I mean, they say, probably like mounts or pets, but it's very up in the air. They didn't really announce any of the rewards at this event, except like the weird death elemental that looked like the Jaina mount, but
Oh yeah,
not
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
that was that they said one of the tints is gonna be the Mythic 15 mount.
Gotcha. I remember.
So
Yeah.
that's a pretty cool mount.
Yeah. It does look really cool.
Yeah.
Also, the mats for the legendaries from Torghast too, right? Or was it
Yeah,
not?
some of the stuff is from Torghast, as well as the quest to
Mm-hmm.
get the Renown from your
Mm-hmm.
covenant, because you need to save the souls.
Mm-hmm. And I
So
also,
there are reasons to go in there,
if I remember
depending on like if you're
correctly,
casual or hardcore.
yeah.
Good. Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, if you jump to a higher floor, you get all the mats from the lower ones too. So you don't have to like
Yeah.
tediously go through all the lower ones to get all the different mats. And I thought that was quite nice to allow you to have fun with the difficulty that you're interested in
They
and not miss
also were
out.
talking about how they're realizing that, based on feedback, like some of the higher floors seem easier than the lower floors, because
Yes.
you have all these anima powers you can just like roll in.
Yeah.
And they're saying they're working on adjusting the difficulty, because it shouldn't feel like,
Yeah.
if you just like grind or get through the hump, it's easy mode.
Mm-hmm.
It should feel harder if you're on a higher floor.
Indeed. I think that was Slut's interview. He was like, I
Yeah,
just go in there into the higher ones and just one shot everything. It's like,
right. And
yeah,
like,
it's not
yeah, it's
supposed to
not
be
meant
like
to be
that.
it. Right.
Yep.
Um, and then finally, another general topic was the pre-patch, which is also kind of strange how it's shrouded in mystery along with the release date. Um,
Yeah.
they
Mm-hmm.
say it's the pre-patch, similar structure to past expansions, although I think it varied a lot, but probably like a month or a little before the expansion, and then
Mm-hmm.
the pre-event with the like expansion specific lore buildup will likely take a few weeks before. So well, maybe I don't know, we could have like 3 weeks of getting used to new leveling and new abilities, and then maybe like 3 weeks of dealing with all the undead, zombies running across Azeroth and the Ice Crown and the Thanos story. I think that's how it's going to happen.
Did they specify that it's going to be divided like that, or is that your
Yeah,
theory?
they like a lot of people said vague things, so I don't know if they were contradicting each other, but one person
Oh.
said that um some people are just like, "Oh yeah, pre-patch is a few weeks before, pre-event is a few weeks before." But
Mm.
someone was like, "Oh, similar to the past where, the pre-patch event starts a few weeks after the pre-patch."
Okay.
And
Interesting.
so,
Mm-hmm.
pre-patch is like the level squish,
Yeah.
the
Like the
leveling
mechanical part of
flow,
things. Mm-hmm.
right? And then the event is like, why are the zombies attacking
Mm-hmm.
Azeroth? And we're going to Ice Crown, and we're also, dealing with Nathanos, who it makes more sense of why we're trying to find him in the pre-patch after the Shadows Rising novel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
So
give us a bit of time to get used to our new levels and um, a bit of new mechanics, potentially some different class things too, abilities, talents, etc. And then once we've been given a bit of time, it would make sense then that the event pops up and it's time to jump into the new happenings.
yeah. Also, we learned that corruption is going away in the pre-patch.
Yep.
The lore reason is that N'Zoth is dead.
Mm-hmm.
This means that anything you added to your gear will not work if you have a contaminant in your bags. It will turn to dust in the pre-patch.
Yep.
So you can't stock up. You can't, work on a corruption set to have it be OP for, farming old transmogs in
Yeah.
Shadowlands. It just is gone.
Yep.
Like
It's
all
gone.
over, gone.
I think they
Yeah.
said that it'll be grayed out. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be gone. Your gear will still work with regular stats and stuff, but the corruption part of it will be inactivated.
Yeah. They did say though that the essences that will still work in the
Mm-hmm.
pre-patch, and the essences will work indefinitely as well as the Azurite. It just they'll be disabled in the Shadowland zones. But if you
Mm-hmm.
want to, I don't know, for whatever reason, have an essence set for some farming or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you can have that active in the old world zones.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I thought that was pretty
Um,
interesting. And also on the
yeah.
topic of this, it was mentioned we know that the game is pretty broken right now.
Yes, they said that. It was in the Panda TV interview. They were like,
That was funny.
"Yeah,
It was
it's
it was
just
Ian,
like
right?
a mess." Yeah, yeah. Ian did that interview.
Yeah.
And he just was like, yeah, he's like, we know it's broken, like it's out of control, it's just going away.
Yep.
Because like I'm sure you all saw this, but the event was right after Rextroy made a video saying that he, stacked Infinite Stars 3 on 9 different slots, and then
Mm-hmm.
he just like one-shotted people to like 2500 MMR.
Yep.
And it's like, oh,
Exactly.
corruption is so cool.
Yeah.
Red
They
boundaries.
said so. In other words, corruption will not be fixed at this point. It's just gonna continue to be crazy. So, if you are a class that can make use of it and have fun, go for it. In the pre-patch, it's going away.
Yeah. I wonder, I mean, it's interesting psychological data because people don't like feeling that, on one hand, you don't want to feel like someone is just being OP because they bought corruption, not because they're skilled, but maybe they can also identify, like, did something feel cool or totally crazy? Like, how can we capture that, hype or absurdity moving forward without making it feel like players have, their actions are not skill based.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because whenever we post about something wild with corruption, it's super popular. Like
Yeah. People
the
will
Rex Troy
say.
news
Yeah.
was more popular than a lot of our like event coverage.
Yep.
Um, so maybe they'll learn something from corruption.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Paul? What are you doing? He's a corruption cat.
Yeah, it seems like crazy is okay if it's at the end of the expansion, basically. So
Yeah, like
it's
even
gonna
with the
stay like that.
artifact powers, it was like everyone was, did all these super OP type things. Maybe not as much as the corruption, but when you're fully maxed out and your power level is going up each week and your artifacts are getting unstable, you are very powerful and getting a lot done.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Um, on a less powerful note, heirlooms in the pre-patch are losing their experience bonus.
Yeah. On the power
And
stripping
Blizzard,
note.
yeah, Blizzard is looking to replace it with something that is not just extra experience that will be equally as beneficial and unique. Which is interesting because we've seen
Oh,
a
you're
lot of
muted. Oh, you're back.
bright pop. He like knocked my laptop around.
Oh.
Um, we've seen a lot of like buffs Blizzard has been trying out in the past year. Like there's the experience buff, obviously, but there's also things like we had a reputation buff at one point, and we've got these time walking buffs.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like they want to do something with heirlooms, but not the experience bonus.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I like that. What do you think
Yeah,
about
it's
it?
also, I mean, it's like a lot of people have ground out heirlooms, and it feels like a big deal to remove it without really giving proper notice. This was also in an interview with Mr. GM, so it wasn't, in a blue post or the
Mm-hmm.
official stream that had a lot more eyeballs on it, so I could see people being upset that it could easily have been missed.
Yeah, I mean that too for sure. And it's just like heirlooms were not cheap to upgrade either. Like there's a lot of people who've spent a lot of gold on it for the percentage specifically because a lot of gear in the outside world is actually better than your heirlooms like while you're questing, but you don't replace it because well you want the XP bonus. So I can understand like because of that they will just make them stronger so that there's no way you'll find items in the out open, which is better. But I don't know if that's enough. I feel like as an
There's
experienced
also some
player.
heirlooms
Hmm?
that were like really difficult to get, like not just the upgrading, but they're like the warlords garrison shipyard has rings, for example, that like have a very low chance
Oh
to
yeah, the
proc.
5% one. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's actually true.
and there are a few other examples like that, and people were like really proud they got them. And I guess Blizzard could say that they're a relic of a different time and place, but I feel like definitely like way more advanced notice. Like we knew the Brutosaur was going away for a very long time at this point, and
Yeah.
that's just a cosmetic thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if heirlooms are getting massively changed, people should have known about it as long as the Brutosaur, if not more.
Maybe during the 100% XP time as well. A lot of people specifically in that time bought a lot of heirlooms, for example, and maybe they wouldn't have if it didn't have the XP buff. I just think a sudden change like that feels a little bit unfair and punishing. Even if they make the heirlooms stronger and would argue that the leveling is fast anyways, I don't see the problem of someone who is experienced and has already leveled a lot of characters to still be a little bit faster. Maybe what they could have done is nerf how much XP they give, rather. So
I could also, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, like for example, the 10% experience is a lot. Maybe turn them down to like 5 or maybe even less, just so that you still feel like you invested into something and it's not completely devalued because you are being told that leveling is fast anyways. Like it doesn't feel right. It feels like a punishment.
Yeah, I was also going to say that I think it would have helped if they had given more specifics of what they wanted to replace it by, because I did think it was a little unfair how, we have a headline that, heirlooms lose experience, and people are like, my heirloom is garbage. And I'm like, no, wait, they're replacing it with something else. But that tended to get lost in the discussion, and if they had given more specifics on what they were thinking of, maybe if it sounded really cool, it would have calmed people down a bit, having
Yeah,
a
I mean,
specific thing like, oh, like
mm-hmm,
experience is going away, but like your stats will be twice as popular, and like
mm-hmm.
your health regenerates, or like I don't know, like you get extra bag space, like you have like a weird proc on your gear, something strange. Like I think there are the heirloom trinkets that don't have experience, but they have interesting effects on them. So even if they just said something to that effect, that your heirlooms would have some interest, like some effect to like help you with like
Yeah,
health, or I don't know,
mm-hmm,
cheat death, or like one's fall
mm-hmm.
damage, or one's movement speed. I think that would have helped build more goodwill.
I think that the blow would have felt less punishing, I guess. But I think at the end of the day, it would still feel bad. I would rather have an
Yeah.
experience reduction because one of the arguments is they don't want you to level through and miss the story. But if you already have all those heirlooms, you're probably already a very experienced player and have already gone through all the stories already. Then at that point, you don't need that extra time. I think it's okay to level faster. And I think having less experience on the gear would have made more sense than just completely removing them.
Yeah, I mean, you have to also wonder, like, was there some issue with balancing? Like, were they concerned that people would easily, it would be too much experience, and with the process requiring less XP, you could, skip some really critical thing as you were leveling up? But yeah, I think a
Yeah.
blue post on this with like, hey, here's, five
Mhm.
ideas we're thinking of
Mhm.
replacing experience with. I think
Mhm.
that would be
Mhm.
really helpful because this was super contentious.
Yeah, I do think
Um,
things like movement speed can be very interesting because that, does ultimately make you save time,
yeah,
but that would make things awkward. Like let's say you're playing with a friend and if you earn
and you have the
XP,
speed.
yeah, like if you earn XP a little bit faster, you're doing dungeons or whatever, it's not that big of a deal. But if you suddenly run 50% faster, that's going to be really awkward. So I don't know. I mean, they can make you more powerful and hit things and kill things faster, I guess. But it doesn't feel as good as leveling fast, especially if you just want to level something quickly alone. To have that character at max level, not to enjoy the content because you've already done it 20 times.
Yeah. That also sort of reminded me of another detail before we talk about lore, which is our final uh, kind of
Section.
spotlight thing.
Mm-hmm.
They said that archaeology, well, it was translated from a
Oh,
French,
yeah.
it was an interview in English that was transcribed by a French site in French, and then we translated back to English with Google Translate, the bullet point. So probably something is lost in translation, but it was something to the effect that like there weren't major archaeology updates planned for Shadowlands, and a lot of people got really upset by this, and it just had a similar reaction to heirlooms. Like, you've got this core group of people that maybe like 5 years ago invested a lot in this part of the game, and it's been helpful, or they like doing it, and they just learn that there's going to be like a massive change in a little interview buried away somewhere.
I'm kind of happy that there's no updates to
Yeah.
archaeology.
I mean, I
There's
think
been a
a
lot
few
of
things
very.
would be okay.
Sorry,
Yeah.
say that again?
I think a few things would be okay, because
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's
But I feel
I
like
mean, I think
sometimes
like
it's
when
hard for Blizzard to do a few things, and then it'll be an achievement where you have to grind out all the archaeology pieces of all the different zones, and then you have to have the pristine version of each one. And
no, I think that's silly, but I people are like really hype when the Legion Moose comes around,
yeah,
for
yeah,
example.
yeah, that was cool. That was cool.
And I think in like back in the day, like with Cataclysm, they didn't have pristines then, but they had the rares you could still get, and a lot of the rares had like really cool flavor text that were explaining the lore of
Mm-hmm.
you know, the zones more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like women can be druids and like night elf men can be priests, or we got Queen Ashara's dressing gown and like the highborn and like the soul mirror, which was actually like very relevant to Najatar. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if they had some, not pristines, but if they had some
Some cool
like
rare
twisted versions
things.
of artifacts, yeah, like in our lore interview, we learned that Mograine doesn't actually have the Ashbringer, that cool model we were showing, but
Mm-hmm.
he has his like own version. So it would be neat if there were like things that sounded like Azeroth in the Shadowlands that weren't quite the same item that we could dig up. I think that could be cool. Like obviously, you don't want to dig up 10 Ashbringers hoping for a pristine one,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I think it's a cool way to add little flavor text here
Mm-hmm.
and there.
I think I'm just a little bit traumatized from, I believe it's
It's
both
super grinding.
MOP and Warlords, where you had to farm a lot of archaeology to get all the achievements. And ever since
Hmm.
I got all of those, I think Legion was fine. It was mainly a different quest line every week that you had to do,
Yeah.
or something similar.
WoD was bad, I think, because I
WoD
don't
was
think there's a lot
bad.
of fun things with WoD, and it just was like it felt very
Very
repetitive.
grindy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, it's better with nothing than to risk something like super grindy. But of course, the way that you put it, having some cool rare items could be interesting. And if it's even if it's similar to Legion, it was actually okay having a cool new quest line that gives a rare item, or being able to um, find cool things like the mount from Tolvir that's still pretty popular to go and get if you don't have it
Yeah, the
already.
two-seater. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like stuff like that is what people remember from archaeology, not like, oh, let me grind out the pristine thing. And if they leaned into making a few unique items, like,
Yeah.
hey, this item vanished on Azeroth. Where did it end up? Oh, look, here is like the Twisted Shadowlands version of it. That could be
Mhm.
something.
Mhm. Yeah. No, that's true.
Like I don't know, maybe the soul of Mr. Bigglesworth is in Shadowlands, and we can get a little
Yeah.
cat battle pet. That would be
Yeah.
funny. I'm thinking, Mr. Did you see
And
the Hearthstone announcement?
Some Shadowlands themed mounts too. No. What's the Hearthstone announcement?
I mentioned Mr. Bigglesworth because it's an AU take on Scholomance, and it's like Scholomance Academy, and everyone is very
Oh.
happy. And there is a human, Kel'Thuzad, who is the headmaster, and he's carrying around a very happy, smug-looking Mr. Bigglesworth. Um,
Oh. Okay.
so
Yeah.
it's
No,
like
I
it's
missed
it's
that.
like this very happy, like quirky wizard
Yeah.
academy, and the trailer prominently features this, Mr. Bigglesworth looking very cute and smug. So
Gotcha.
I just was
Mhm.
thinking of him because, of course, in Shadowlands we know like Kel'Thuzad has his new, disgusting bony model, and there is speculation he's tied to Maldraxxus, which is the land of the green slimes. So just comparing the
Mhm.
aesthetics of Shadowlands and then Hearthstone being all like pretty and fairy tale and cartoony with the same character is kind of funny.
Yep. Mhm.
But I guess before we talk more about the a few interesting lore topics, do people have any questions on like more of the systems or general updates? We made a monster post that has like bullets about all the covenants, all the Torghast, all the loot.
Oh, let's link it.
Um, yeah, it's the
The
very first
first
thing
one,
in
right?
the
Yeah.
notes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I got it. So here you see a big, big table of contents of everything. So you can go into whichever topic that interests you. So you can grab a coffee, sit down, and start reading.
So we conducted an art interview and a lore interview.
Hmm.
The art one was like I had fun doing it. It was a lot about aesthetics, but it wasn't super like we're just hearing about an art guy talking about cool inspirations, and it's not really like discussion worthy on the show. Like I learned cool things. I'll just share a few. Briefly, like I learned about how Maldraxxus was hard to design because it doesn't have trees, and
Oh yeah,
psychologically,
yeah.
your eye is drawn to like
Like you need something
it's a
vertically.
setting, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and how like they use other parts of Maldraxxus based on some rocks by the beach in California and the cliffs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool how obviously California is very desert and brown and not
Mm-hmm.
covered in slime, but it was an inspiration for a very different looking zone.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they talked about why they got rid of the male Ardenweald set, and yeah, it was like a real challenge to make, and they weren't happy with it. And they do think that male is like the trickiest set to separate from leather and plate, especially when you have a nature theme.
Mm-hmm.
So it was good to know, like we weren't crazy thinking that they got rid of the set. They actually did that.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah,
I was very curious about that one because I wasn't sure if they would really have a full working set and actually still scrap it.
yeah,
Which is interesting because it probably happens all the time, but we just don't see
yeah.
it.
Yeah, they sort of gave another example related to zones. How in Drustvar originally they had a concept of a bunch of trees with
Oh
like
yeah.
stars in
Mm-hmm.
the canopy,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't go with that concept. But then that is what led to the Ardenweald sky.
Yep.
It got reused for that, so that was neat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they also, I asked them about the Blood Elf Blue Eyes, and they said that yeah, there's a lot of internal discussion, and they did purposely add a few high elf options, and maybe more different options would come in the future.
Mm-hmm.
They also were really happy to add the Scar and Teldrassil. There's a burn face customization option called Teldrassil, and it was specifically for RP reasons. If someone felt they were a survivor of the fire, they could
I like that.
use this to reflect the real world event, and they were
Yep.
very well, not like in-game event, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they were very happy that they would be able to um honor and pay tribute to
Mm-hmm.
actual events that happened in the game like that.
Mm-hmm. It
And
gives your
I asked,
character a unique
yeah,
story. Yep. Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, I was also asking them, I was like, so Blue Eyes were sort of late added. Anything else that was like a last minute addition? And they were saying that they were realizing that like bald hairstyles looked really cool. Actually, a lot of times when we preview things on Wowhead, we will just take the hair off so you can see the other options better. And they realized that bald can be like very empowering. Some people also have like bald hair for medical reasons. If they're older, they lose their hair, and they decided to very recently add bald options in for lots of male and female character races.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I thought all that was, really interesting. And even like I asked them stuff like, hey, why do we have these very cool, lightsaber animations going from Oribos to other zones? And they're talking about how they're trying to get rid of loading screens. And it wasn't just a cool animation. They want to show all the zones are like really far apart. So by having you, flying through the sky on this mount and seeing the sky change, it conveys the aesthetics of Shadowlands. It's not just like, ooh, let's do something cool.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I mean, like I said, the interview wasn't like, breaking news release date, but I thought it was really cool to actually dig into the topics, and you can tell the art director, Eli Cannon, like he
Mm-hmm.
really loves,
Yeah.
this work,
Mm-hmm.
and just hearing them talk about all the little details and like the stars in the sky and like the rocks at the beach that were inspiring. It was like a really cool deep read, and I don't think we always get those sorts of interviews because a lot of people want to focus on like, you know, tell me
Actual
when the raid is
mechanics,
opening.
gameplay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want the scoop, and it's actually
Mm-hmm.
cool just to like hear someone talk about their craft more.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if you are like an art student or designer yourself, you
Yeah.
will find something interesting there.
Mm-hmm. And art is a huge, it's a big part of World of Warcraft. Even if you may not be somebody who appreciates or is interested in art as a hobby necessarily, you probably still appreciate World of Warcraft art, and which is probably why also we're seeing more of these sort of art books and stuff being released. For example, the one with the collector's edition, which is coming out. Art is a big big deal. And a lot of people even talk about how they may have not liked BFA at all, but they still love the art during BFA. And I feel like sometimes the artists may not get as much, what's the word?
Credit
Credit,
or
yeah. They may not get
attention.
as much
Yeah.
credit as they should because there's a lot of things going on behind there. And I can imagine that most of the art being done is things that are never even used. So it's a lot of time spent on all of those things. And I'm not like super duper into art, but even I found it interesting to hear that thing about how in the zone you don't want trees, but you need something vertical to like fill it, otherwise it becomes like a plain ground. And so they had things like huge mushrooms, and I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Like they're using these things just to create like a setting in a way, and I thought it was like an interesting perspective that I would have never thought about.
Yeah. Another thing that Sylvanas was kind of a spotlight question in both the art and lore interviews, and I learned something about Sylvanas in the art interview, which I would not have expected. I was asking about the new armor, and we
Mm-hmm.
knew that it was meant to represent the Maw and be, silver and spiky, and show that she's coming into her, powers. She's no longer the Banshee Queen. She's, aligned with the Jailer. But I didn't know that it was so difficult to create the model because her skin is naturally gray and the Maw colors are also gray,
Yeah.
and there's not a lot of definition, so they had to do like creative things with shading to still have details pop. And they're like, yeah, it would have been easier if we just changed her skin tone to be more, pastel or pink, but like that's not Sylvanas. Like Sylvanas is undead with really pale skin. So, for example, if you look closer at the armor, you'll see that it's silver, but there's, sort of like dark gray or navy or purple highlights,
Mm-hmm.
like the shading highlights to give more variation. So it's not just like, you know, it doesn't just look like a gray blob with spots.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was interesting because I asked them, I was like, hey, people really are excited about Sylvanas and Kale. And they're like, oh, Kale's really easy, but Sylvanas, like, she was really difficult for us to make.
Yeah, because it's such a sensitive thing as well. If you change something too much, because people feel so much about some of these characters like Sylvanas, and you want it to still feel like Sylvanas to everyone who is uh, playing the game or following the stories. You don't want anyone to feel like, oh, this isn't Sylvanas anymore. That would like ruin the
Right.
whole feeling.
Yeah. So this could actually tie into the lore conversation because there was the other interviewer for Wowhead interviewed Stephen Newser, lead narrative designer, and she was asking about Sylvanas and redemption because a lot of Shadowlands is about redemption, for Kael'thas, for Vosh, who, was also an N tier boss, but now is really happy in Maldraxxus, even though she was a villain.
Yeah.
And, we have seen Blizzard do redemption arcs for other characters like Kerrigan. Uh, and, she was curious, you know, could there be something similar in store for Sylvanas? And the answer sparked a lot of debate because Steve Denuser said something to the effect of, it's not as simple as like, is she like good enough to be redeemed?
Mm-hmm.
It's more, will her storyline uncover some new truths and have us know what her motivations are, and it will add more context to her actions. And it will give fans of Sylvanas more things to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like the wording is really sensitive. I feel with a question like this because, um, especially if you've played a character that is on the receiving end of some of her negative actions, you could be thinking, well, Sylvanas, burned down the home of the Night Elves. Like
Yeah,
I
like
don't
what
want
excuse
her
can
in
you have?
Shadowlands. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's too far, gone. Like I
Yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah.
care what the excuse is, or it's like, how do you care about a story that's like genocide is good because like this cosmic force we don't care about, she had to kill them to like defeat the force. You're sort of like, this is like
Yeah.
I can't really relate to the story. This is a little weird. So I think people were worried about that angle. But they also did say in the question that, they know people were getting frustrated with how she was so mysterious in BFA, and there
Mm-hmm.
was going to be a moment where her motivations are clearer in Shadowlands.
Yeah.
And like actually
Mm-hmm.
looking back, like there was a lot of bait and switch in early BFA media. Like at one point, in the Before the Storm novel, Sylvanas is like thinking, you hear her thoughts, and she's going on about how, like, she's really proud to be, the female war chief, or like how she cares about the undead, and it's like, well, if, or she's like, she's upset that Vol'jin put her in charge, and now she's stuck with all this responsibility. It's a challenge, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, but if this was all part of the plan, and like you don't actually care about being war chief, like why are you saying these things? So I
Yeah.
can see why players aren't really sure what to trust as far as the narrative, and actually just hearing something straightforward will feel like closure, whether we agree with it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, they made
but
it
yeah, I
sound like
just
she's going to be more honest with us, basically. Tell her
yeah,
exactly how she sees things, what is motivating her, or what has been motivating her, um, and yeah, may potentially change your mind about your opinion.
to wonder if they're like, oh, it isn't as simple as saying she'll be redeemed. If we're with other characters, they're very like human level characters. Like Kael'thas is a person, but it seems that if Sylvanas is with the jailer, she could be like a cosmic force at this point. Like she's beyond someone that would be judged by the arbiter.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, well, maybe like she's leveled up too much. So talking about her in terms of like, oh, a person that died, would she be redeemed or not? It's like, well, she's like, you can't. It's like saying, would like Illidan or Sargeras be redeemed or not? Like they don't fit into that part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, like I hope it's just continued to be treated with sensitivity, and I think as part of the reaction to BFA, Blizzard is learning that like a lot of people, when you cover something, a serious topic, people get, when bad things happen to your character in game, people like are sensitive about it and they're upset, and if their character is at the receiving end of a story that isn't fun or like feels good, um, it's not fun to play WoW. Like if you care about that part of the game, so
Yeah.
maybe they're realizing they have to be more uh, honest and nuanced with things, and not like, are they secretly good after they did this bad thing. So I just hope there's more. I just hope they learned a lot from BFA on how to handle Sylvan.
Another interesting thing with this, because it's implied that some people might not think that bad of her anymore after learning more about her, it kind of rules out the idea that we will kill her.
Right. This ties in. Well, I'll just move the notes up, but this ties into how we learned that the final boss is the jailer. So the final boss is not Sylvanas.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so it's like maybe if it's like the focus of Shadowlands will not be to track down and hunt Sylvanas. Maybe she's using the jailer for something else. Maybe she'll help us kill the jailer. Maybe she'll, I don't know, vanish again and join
Yeah.
another cosmic force.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it seems like if Sylvanas is with the jailer, and we learned that the jailer is a being that has like power equivalent or higher to the Titans, that she's sort of ascended. Like she's not just a character that would be judged. Like she's like she's like up there. Like if she's working with someone that's basically a Titan.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like Sylvanas almost like a little like mini Titan of Death now.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm happy with this thing of hearing more truths about her and then her being somewhat maybe redeemed. I don't know.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is that
Like, what
if
could it
if
be?
well, it's like, I mean, it was horrible what happened to her. Like she was denied death, and then
Yeah.
Arthas twisted her into this undead,
Mm-hmm.
and then she and her race were seen as damned. And then when she tries to commit suicide, she's automatically sent into the maw just because of who she is. So she could be like, the rules of the universe conspired against me to put me in a really like shitty, unfair position. I want to change the cycle uh, of this. So
Hmm.
like I can see how maybe that's something like, you know, why should we keep the rules going as they are? You know, like why should people forced into being undead be naturally you know, damned? Like why am I going to the same place as Arthas when I was, you know, trying to defeat him and help the Forsaken survive? Like why am I just like permanently like, you know, tainted by this person's actions? Like why have I lost, you know, agency in my, you know, unlife? So maybe she's trying to break the cycle to get closure for herself, but you know, I could see also along the way them being like, well, maybe she had the right idea, but she became like Arthas
In the process.
along the way.
Yeah.
You know, like she like, you know, you become like the what you sort of become what you hate, or like how, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Maiev was hunting Illidan, and then like she became, you know, the one that was sort of like possessive and, you know, obsessive about the process. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I would just like answers because, you know, BFA had a lot of things that seemed very questionable that she did, but because
Mm-hmm.
she has a big fan following, people are like, well, like surely this beloved character, you know, can't be doing all these horrible things. Like there must be another twist or explanation. And it's sort of getting to a point where I just want to actually know what she is
Mm-hmm.
thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I really don't want there to be a situation where it's like, well, you know, secretly the burning of Teldrassil was for the greater good. And it's like, I
Yeah,
like,
I don't know. I don't
yeah,
buy that.
yeah.
I mean, because it's that,
Uh,
and also wasn't she the one responsible for putting out all the blight in Lordaeron
yeah, I mean, it's interesting
or
because if you look,
Undercity?
yeah,
Yeah,
she blighted the Undercity.
yeah, and
She
it's
was
like she
involved
destroyed
in
two
Wrathgate.
cities.
Yeah, and I feel like because with the like Sylvanas in early WoW had like the vibe that, you know, she was like the emo one. She was dealt a shitty hand, but look at her, she's in charge of the Forsaken. You know, she's
Mm-hmm.
making a best of a bad situation. She, you know, does questionable things, but that's because she's, you know, in a shitty place, and maybe she can have some peace after defeating, you know, Arthas.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, like she's weird, but she's doing the best that she can, and you know, she had horrible things.
Mm-hmm.
um and like she had this sort of like iconic status and fan following surrounding her, and I think people sort of glossed over a lot of questionable things she did. Like, you know, you see the blight everywhere and everyone's like, oh, aesthetic undead green, and it's like that's kind of like
No.
creepy. Or
Yeah.
when, you know, I think they're like trying to mind control a human prisoner in the Undercity, they have, you know, the plague quarter, like people in the cages.
She killed her own people
um
too, right? And didn't she res a bunch of them as well?
Yeah, like she raised them in BFA, but like even in Cataclysm, like it's very much like she's raising the second wave of Forsaken. She's
Yeah.
doing a lot of questionable things even then,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like people sort of, because they were used to, you know, Sylvanas as this like fantasy in their head, they sort of were ignoring a lot of these things to
Mm-hmm.
keep propping her up. And now when you look back, you're like, oh, like she kind of did stuff that was
Not
not
okay.
really great all along.
Yeah.
Um, and then it's even more confusing, like when I mentioned that before the Storm novel, how it painted Sylvanas in a way that sort of contradicted some of her later, you know, actions or thoughts. So like the novel made it seem like she was like really struggling to be a good war chief, that she like really cared about it and she didn't plan on being it, but then we learn later on that she,
She didn't care. She just walked out of it.
right. So it's, you know, I feel like some of the media was always like perpetuating this idea that she was like this, you know, badass warrior queen dedicated to her people, and then we learn at the end of BFA like, oh, I've even hated the Forsaken for a while. So
Yeah.
I just want like a very clear cut portrayal uh of her, and just to understand the full story
Mm-hmm.
before it gets even more convoluted.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the Sylvanas bit.
Mm-hmm.
Another Before we talk about diversity, I just wanted to mention a few rapid fire things like I did with Art that stood out to me in the interview,
Mm-hmm.
which was that Kalia is not the leader of the Forsaken. And if you've seen our coverage of the introductory patch that made it seem like she was, Blizzard confirmed that the NPCs on top of Icecrown, like a lot of them were placeholders.
Oh yeah.
Um, and
About
like
Valera
Kalia,
too.
yeah, like Valyria is not suddenly with the Horde.
Yeah.
Um, And Kalia is there not because she's the leader, but because she has a really personal tie to Icecrown. I mean, like her brother was, formerly the Lich King. Like her fate, like she's there for a lot of personal reasons.
Mm-hmm. And we will learn more
Um,
about them in the pre-patch, I think they said, right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We also learned about the Ashbringer is not Ashbringer, it's Fatebringer. And
Oh yeah.
Mograine had the Ashbringer in life, so when he has his identity in the Shadowlands, he decided to craft a weapon that looked really similar, but it wasn't the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we learned that Elune is worshipped on multiple realms, and there are like
Oh yeah,
night
that was
warriors
interesting.
on
Mm-hmm.
different worlds. And like no one knows where Elune fits into things. Like you've got the cosmology chart, but you can't pinpoint an area and be like, oh, Elune is there. So it's like she could be much bigger than we realize as far as a deity.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be like an interesting cosmic force. And then if you think that there are night warriors on other lands, it's like, well, will we go to another land in a future expansion or patch? Like we went to Argus,
Mm-hmm.
which had the Draenei, and it was like a weird, like parallel to our universe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we also learned it's hard to honestly like I feel like Blizzard has work to do making these hype, but they were talking about how you know what's a more powerful force than the Titans? What are the first ones? What did they build? And it seems like there's a whole nother level of like higher powers in the universe that they've been really pushing in some of these interviews, which I think is very interesting from a lore perspective, but from like a daily player perspective, you want to be like, what's up with Sylvanas? Like it's hard to think of, Titans are big and abstract, and then like the first ones are even more abstract. But it seems like there could be some interesting lore twists in store if they keep developing what's going on with these even higher powers that we've never heard of before. Um, Certainly the architecture looks cool if it's like Ouroboros,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, I just feel like like in some patch they're gonna do a first one's reveal and people will be like, who are they? Like like
Yeah.
because it's hard if you don't if it's like if it's not a character you have an emotional attachment to, it's hard to get someone to care about it. But I feel like at some point if we piss off the first ones, it's gonna not be good for our characters in Azeroth, and we'll suddenly care about.
I just saw a comment in chat about Perk's volume being a little bit low, so I turned her up by 10%.
Oh,
So if you can...
Brightpaw, he tilted my
Oh, okay.
mic
You're a
away
lot
from
louder
me.
now.
Yeah.
I'll turn you back
Brightpaw, why
down
did
then.
you do that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think this should be good.
um
Maybe it
but
happened
yeah,
over
so
time slowly, so I didn't realize.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, so those were just rapid fire things I thought stood out from the interview. A more interesting point is diversity. This came up in our interview and in some other interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Blizzard has said a lot in these interviews that they want to really show that Azeroth represents the inclusivity and diversity of the real world. They've talked about how players can create themselves with more greater variety of customization
Mm-hmm.
options. They were talking about some, different relationships in WoW, like the Night Warrior we mentioned in the show with Noble appears to have a husband. Blizzard also recently talked about making updating the pronouns of one of the main Bastion characters, Pelagos,
Yeah.
to reflect they are trans.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big deal considering how angry and uh, upset people get over anything related to gender and identity. I remember the comments on that post were really awful on Wowhead. So
Yep.
while to some people you'd be like, okay, like Blizzard only added one character, like wow, great first step, have more casual rep. Considering how the player base is sort of is not very open minded, it still is a big step to add more diverse characters and actually make statements of
Oh, if you can still hear me,
support. So
you
I
are
hope
gone.
yeah. Oh,
Okay.
I
Yep.
didn't touch anything. Am I here?
Yes, but
Yeah, I can hear
your
you though.
video is delayed. I think your voice is delayed too, actually.
Let's see.
Yeah, it's lagging, I think. Could you say something now? Let's see.
Test.
Okay, it's a little bit delayed. Mm,
Yeah, I don't know what's up.
Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna look into my Discord settings. In the meantime, I'll let you guys take a look at the uh, let's see, collector's edition. Yes, you can look at the collector's edition.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at this. All right. Okay, let me do this. Okay, could you say something? Nope. I think she's completely gone now. Yep, look at that shiny loot. I'm gonna ask her if this part is green for her. Is this part green? Okay, it seems like she has an update. Maybe it was forced upon her. I'm gonna tell her to leave the call and see if that helps. Okay, and then call. Hello?
Hey, is this? Yeah,
Yeah?
it's just stayed green for me the whole time. It
Okay.
says 19 now.
Strange. Oh, I don't see a number, but it's green for me.
Yeah, when I mouse over, it says now it's down to 16.
Oh, wait, what does that number mean?
Like I guess the lag.
Oh, the
So,
MS. Okay, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I see.
So
Well, it looks and
is it?
sounds good now, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what's up. Like I said, it's really hot here, so I don't know if the internet is like, I don't know, like
Yeah, I'm not sure.
temporary outages. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not showing anything strange on my end. It's all just green.
Okay. Well, it seems to work now. Maybe that update did something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, really sorry about that because like I know we were just talking about a topic that people can be like kind of bigoted about, and I don't know where I left off. I don't want that to be awkward or anything.
Um,
Um,
yeah, no, it's okay. It kind of like just cut off completely, so it wasn't like cutting or anything. It was just cut off. Um, but yeah, you were mentioning how there's been a lot of negative comments as well from people uh, on the whole diversity and inclusivity. But it is important, and it is nice that Blizzard is trying to do something about it, having it in the world of Warcraft as well. I don't remember the
yeah, I'm
specific
hoping.
thing you were saying, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that it feels like Blizzard has is a bit behind the times in adding diversity. I mean, I remember even in Warlords when they updated the human race, they had darker skin tones before Warlords, and then with the update they removed them, and like no one really said anything then.
I didn't even realize
And
that.
yeah,
Wait, so
so
they removed more skin colors, basically.
yeah,
Okay.
and looking back, that's pretty bad
Yeah.
on Blizzard's end. And there are like a lot of jokes that aren't very PC or sensitive, or they poke fun at like marginalized groups, or people with disabilities in older expansions. And like I said, I think Blizzard has been a little behind the times, and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully this is a step. And while people are there's like very vocal people complaining about it. Hopefully Blizzard sees that like the greater support uh like it's they're doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they're not like, oh, like our core player base is like, angry people that are, kind of bigoted about things. We don't want to annoy them. I think that would be a horrible thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that they are trying to take a stand and really seem to make an effort in all these lore and other interviews to talk about how they are actively trying to be more inclusive and
Mm-hmm.
diverse now.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah,
one
I think they
thing,
were probably. I think they were probably aware that people would be like that because it's such a big thing in society in general when any company does anything towards that. So yeah, I mean, we can say hopefully, but I'm sure Blizzard wouldn't change their mind about it because I think they probably put a lot of thought into this and were ready for it.
yeah, like I one article that got a ton of intense feedback, which I totally didn't understand, was a few people asked, including myself, if NPCs in major cities would have the more diverse appearances reflecting all the customization options. And Ian confirmed that they're looking into having the guards and civilians have all these appearances. And they're like, even if it's a bit of a retcon that, like a dwarf with a different set of clan tattoos is, in Ironforge, like we want Azeroth should have been more diverse all along.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like when I wrote this article, I looked at the data and I'm like, guards in like Ironforge, there are like four types of guards, like four hairstyles, like four like there's four like they're all clones. It's an army of guard clones. Or like
Yeah.
there's one
Yeah, they look the
human
same.
Stormwind male and one female.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, in BFA in contrast, when they added the like Undercity refugee or the, Teldrassil refugee, this one type of NPC came with dozens of options and, hair and skin tone. So
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense that Blizzard would continue trying to randomize it. And people got so up in arms about this all and were like quoting like really wild, like off the wall, like medieval theories and geography theories that were easily debunked. And it's just like,
Yeah.
uh,
Because people have the
I mean,
opinion that
yeah,
they know how things are supposed to be in World of Warcraft, and if anything changes, then it's wrong, because they have made up in
yeah.
their mind how it's supposed to be. But I think it's a great thing that they're using all the new customization options to make things look a little bit different. Like it is kind of weird that guards look exactly the same, and it's something that I have never really. Thought about, but it's nice if they can make them look a bit different to each other, whether it's hair color, skin color, eye color, or anything. I also see a comment in the chat. Random MCs use a randomizer anyway, so it's not changing established named MCs. Yeah, so
True
basically,
as well.
yeah, that's the idea. Basically, it's not that Blizzard is suddenly going to be like, hey, you know what? Actually, Jaina doesn't look like this. We're gonna change her to be like this. Not changing actual characters. It's randomizing the different NPCs like guards and things like that. And I think that's more than welcome.
Yeah, I'm also glad that Blizzard finally emphasized this in their event because like every week on Wowhead when we data mine customization options, people will just argue that we're wrong, that a race can't possibly have this eye color or skin color, and we have to super justify ourselves explaining, what's in the database and like yes, this is
Mm-hmm.
actually for player characters, and
Mm-hmm.
no, Blizzard did not delete Void Elf skin tones. No, they didn't go back on their word from BlizzCon.
Mm-hmm.
And we just sort of kept data mining these things and Blizzard didn't really say anything, and it led to a ton of moderation from our staff, and it was like this very weird dynamic how we felt like we were sort of like
You
tanking
had to
all of these
take all that.
angry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm glad that they actually finally made a statement of support in multiple interviews being like, yes, like we value inclusivity on Azeroth. um this is how things are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not new additions to the game. This is how it should have been all along.
Yeah.
Just
Exactly.
accept that and,
Yeah.
enjoy playing the game
Mm-hmm.
how you want to look.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like even player customization, should have been there way, way long ago. But it is what it is. Like sometimes things take lower prio and higher prio, and now happens to be the time that we do get those customization options. And I think it's weird that people get upset about that. Like I I don't see anything negative with humans, especially because a lot of people pick human. Sure, it's a fantasy game, etc. But a lot of people pick human because they want to look like themselves. And if you're not given the option to make your character look like yourself, um, that's not nice. Like, if the more you can
And
customize it to look like yourself, the better.
like we've seen so much with other games that you can like their customization options are really amazing. Like in more modern games or even like Animal
Oh
Crossing
yeah.
where the whole mini game is like you just like buy the clothes and the weird mask options and you have all these hairstyles and colors and like that's just a tiny game but like many AAA games It's like it's a
Mm-hmm.
big deal on the character creation screen, and there are even more options like, height and age you can do, like all sorts of other options you can customize.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it really shouldn't be a surprise that Blizzard is trying to do something like this.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, definitely. And also because it doesn't affect people's gameplay. Uh,
Yeah.
so it really shouldn't even be a topic of conversation. It's not that, people are forced into quest lines of meeting all people of different kinds of colors and hairstyles and have to love them all, and like it literally doesn't
That'll
affect
be really
gameplay in
cringe
any
and
way.
forced as well. Yeah. Uh, and I mean, if people say that WoW has a problem with toxicity, or some people feel they don't feel comfortable playing WoW, like maybe showing that they were trying to care about diversity could maybe some people will give WoW a second chance, or maybe it could lead to like a critical shift where people that previously didn't feel as welcome now feel like they're represented more in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would be good if Blizzard continued more with this. So, for example, so it's not like, Blizzard added like, a night warrior that's gay. Like, let's like nitpick every word of this character to see if they wrote him well. Like, I feel like if there just was more like casual representation, it wouldn't be we have to like nitpick like the one character that's, like representing one type of group. It would just be like, oh yeah, like there's many different types of characters. It's not like, like, oh, is this character written perfectly because it's the one character they're going to make that
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
is like married to the guy,
yeah.
to a guy and then he dies. Like, it would be nice to be like, oh yeah, there's just like a couple chilling in Stormwind, or Darnassus. Like, I feel like more
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
diversity is good, and I also think, like I said, it would be good if Blizzard could maybe do like a sensitivity pass on some of the parts of past expansions that are kind of like more questionable. Like, this isn't an example of it, but in earlier expansions there was a lot more poop quests, and now things are more serious and grown up. And I feel like that sort of juvenile sense of humor was present in early WoW, and in some cases it led to things not being like politically correct or mature, going beyond like
Mm.
ha
Mm-hmm.
ha stupid poop joke.
Mm-hmm.
um so, I feel like maybe they would do a pass and wouldn't find a ton to change, but it would just be good in case, I know I have friends that are like, well, it's nice Blizzard's doing this, but they still have a joke that, could be interpreted as making fun of, a marginalized group, or, this
Yeah,
quest
I see.
uses
Mm-hmm.
language that's, problematic. So it would be good to, try to clean those up as well,
Mm-hmm.
or have, more robust reporting options in case someone is harassed in the game. Like, we were talking about this, I think, last month, how they just a lot of places were talking about better options for dealing with in-game harassment, and Blizzard was sort of more. They didn't have a lot to share back in June about that, for
Mm-hmm.
example.
I think the reason
So,
why harassment always feels, not always, but often feels like not fixed by Blizzard is a lot of times if you report somebody, you don't get the report back to you like, yeah, hey, by the way, we took care of this person. I think Blizzard does more than we think, but that doesn't mean that
yeah,
it's enough. Like just like we saw with how bots and everything were handled, sometimes they're extremely slow, and I think that the reporting function in general and like the happiness that people feel with playing, whether it's due to harassment or something like gameplay being ruined by bots. I feel like things have to happen faster with those things,
mhm,
because I think it's very very fundamental to your gameplay, your everyday playing, and also things like bad advertisements in the trade chat. I feel like a lot of times I wonder where Blizzard is because it's not being handled, and maybe it's lack of people who are taking care of those things. Maybe there needs to be more resources on that. I don't know.
right. Or if it's automation, maybe the algorithm or the way it's sorted out needs to be better. Or like when you report a player, there's a more detailed breakdown, so like the bot can better determine what is, like not the
Mm-hmm.
bot, like the Blizzard program can better determine what is botting versus what is something that's racist versus
Mm-hmm.
someone that is being like personally harassed versus
Mm-hmm.
someone that is just, seeing something inappropriate in trade chat. So I feel like if they're committed to diversity and inclusivity, moderation is never glamorous, but more, that is really important to making people feel safe and welcomed on a larger basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's sort of like going back to the whole, like, everyone always talks about like Twitch chat. It's like, oh, like maybe Twitch will highlight a few creators, but they, you need to clean up Twitch chat if you
Yeah,
know
of course.
emote that people can meme and be like racist or sexist, as part of like if a game company releases something and people are being horrible in the comments, that just sets a negative tone.
Mm-hmm.
So but yeah, I mean, I'm glad they are starting to have the conversation versus, like what we got in Warlords of Trainer, which was where they removed customization options and no one really seemed to care.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I didn't even know,
so
which is
yeah,
not nice at all because there might have been some people really upset about that.
yeah.
So
So,
yeah.
but yeah, I'm glad they have started to have this conversation, and
Mm-hmm.
I hope it keeps leading to, like, you know, better
Mm-hmm.
representation, better
Yeah.
moderation
Yeah.
policies, more diversity,
Yeah.
less toxicity. I think
Like
that's all good.
like I feel like in any game really, like I want to make my character look like myself, and I feel like everyone in the world should be able to do that. Yeah, I mean, given that,
Yeah,
it's something like human like is possible. If you're playing a
right.
game with cars, you don't want the car to look like you. But like, so I get sad when I can't get the red color of my hair, for example. I get sad in certain games when, like, the pre-made faces of the one that I want has the wrong eye color, like small things like that. And it's maybe difficult for people to imagine what other people might be going through because they have one of the skin tones that is more of a minority, and then they can't get that. And I think with all the more customization options, with especially like darker skins, I feel like that should have always been there. But at least they're getting it now, and I think that's good.
Yeah, and I think it's good that the interviewers didn't want to shy away from talking about this, as well as characters. Brightpaw, what are you doing? Brightpaw has thoughts on this. But yeah, I think between the diversity and them, talking about how you can change your gender at the barbershop for free now, as opposed to that being a paid service, which also led to a lot of comments. Like, side note, like, shout out to all the moderation teams on sites deciding to cover this, because a lot of the people doing the moderation, um, like, they're
They get attacked.
it's not fun. Like, I know people are like, oh, they do it for the greater good, but it's like it's their job to moderate, and it's shitty when they have to deal with extremely angry people. Like, no
Mm-hmm.
one wants to sign up to be a martyr and just delete, like, racist, homophobic comments 24/7. Um and I think I feel I'm glad places, besides Wowhead, have been really covering this, as opposed to being like, oh my god, it's too much work, we don't want to, rock the boat, alienate our users, overwhelm our staff. I think it's good that people have been spreading the word, but it's been really tiring this past week, and kind of disappointing to see, to just, like, be like, oh, worst case scenario, we'll deal with people being gross in the comments, and then an hour later it's like, yeah, let's just lock the thread, everyone's being gross.
Oh shit! You had to do that.
Yeah, like, repeatedly.
Mm.
um like the diverse NPC one
Yeah.
got locked when they talked about Pelagos and pronouns. That got locked. The barbershop customization had a lot of heavy moderation
Mm-hmm.
on it. And like the diverse NPC one is so dumb. It's like, there's like the entire city, all the guards share two appearances. Like, how is this controversial? I don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's been kind of an exhausting week trying to deal with that and keep morale up, and also,
Yeah. Of course, it
keep
takes a toll
doing a
on you.
good coverage on it. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. It's not nice being attacked, like, for whatever the reason. And
Right.
obviously, people are getting attacked because they may be targeted in the topics, and then the moderators are attacked for protecting that. It's
Yeah, like people are like, like, you're bigoted because you don't respect, like, my, homophobic position, and it's like, like that was like an actual comment. Like we get things where people, I'm like, it's like no, like this is not like we have terms of service. You are expressing toxic beliefs. We're not going to just let you
Mm-hmm.
be toxic. Like this
Mm-hmm.
is a private website. You are not following our rules. Like
Yep.
you cannot just spew like disgusting things on Wowhead. Like that's not how it works. If you don't follow our rules, you will get moderated. And we're not like saying we're bigoted because we don't like endorse racism is like all sorts of messed up.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it's been a pretty wild week managing comments.
Yeah. Shouldn't be.
So,
But yeah,
yeah, I
maybe.
mean, like I said, I guess that like really just brings to light how, change was needed and how Blizzard speaking out and being supportive is like actually actively needed to make people feel supported and
Mm-hmm.
not just, like I'm being yelled at all the time and I hope this game company supports people like me.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, so I
Well,
think this about
good job to
ends.
all the moderators. Like, it
Yeah, good job,
must be
Sass
really
and the team.
difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so we finished our notes on the actual event. We're going to talk about data mining now, but I thought it would be good to just see if people had questions, because the data mining is a little different than, you know, the
Talking about the
event stuff.
Shadowlands stuff, yeah. I've been
Yeah.
following the chat, and it feels like we have talked about most things that people have mentioned. There hasn't been many questions, mostly comments on things. So I think we're good so far, but if there's anything that pops into your mind, feel free to ask, especially if it's to do with covenants, Soulbinds, conduits, things that
Yeah.
we've talked about, all the Shadowlands candy, and then we can go on to the data mining.
Yeah. So, like we said, there was a build that happened, this event build, and it's now available on the alpha, so the people in the alpha can play it. And there was a lot of cool stuff there, like some new voiceover for Kalthos, some new customization tones. Uh, there was even fancy character creation screen animations. There's even some new quest lines to do. Character creation screen animations were the most popular things, so let's show them off. I know
Mm-hmm.
we've highlighted like poses before, but the new versions, are like over the top, really cool.
Yep. Here we've got a Death Knight, and it's the GIF. Okay, good. I thought the GIF
Yeah.
freezes instead of replaying, but it does replay. Um, but yeah, they've given a lot more detail into the character creation screen. It's not only UI things like where the buttons are, where the choice of classes, but also a whole animation going on. Like you have the Death Knight here with the ghoul coming out of the ground, and the posing, uh, the weapon swing, and we have quite a few of these here with the different classes. Which one do you want to see next, Perk?
Why don't we do shaman or rogue?
Okay, let's do shaman. Here we go. Totems. I should have been a
Yeah,
Volpera
they're all
though.
fire, which I'm not sure it makes sense that they're all fire,
Yeah,
but
it's probably gonna be fixed, I think.
it looks way better than the old version, which was just I don't know, like they were just sort of like standing in place. I actually the shamans weren't even updated. That was when they never got an update, so their first update has a real banger on it.
3 fire totems. Fake. Yep. Fake
Yeah.
news. Yeah, I really love the totems of Volperas. They're so cute. They're like little foxes. I do think that they will probably make the totems have variation in the future build. It would make more sense than to have 3 of the same one.
Yeah,
Let's
I
take.
really
Yep.
like let's do rogue because
Mm-hmm.
some of the melee ones I'm like on, but the rogue one I think was really badass and it gets
Mm-hmm.
I was like, are they just to be in stealth? But they look very cool. There's a
Yeah.
lot of color and like movement
Fan
and
of
jumping up and
knives,
down.
shadow
Yeah.
vanishing. Really cool, actually. And now she's in stealth. It's nice. Let's see. What else do we have?
Do you want to show warlocks? Because you're a warlock.
Yes. Yes. Let's look for Warlock. Here it is. The imps. The shadow. It looks pretty cool. I think I would have liked to see more of the different pets than just imps. So
Yeah, I like how though how it has the purple
yeah, I
spells and the
like the
green
purple.
spells.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sort of along those lines. If we show Mage, like Mage is really funny because it's got these really epic fire and frost animations, but no arcane. So everyone is like, "Rip arcane, dead spec."
No, that's funny. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, the warlock should have had infernal.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah, should have definitely have infernal. I just got reminded of it because of this meteor on the mage one. But yeah, it looks cool. Let's see what else we have here.
Drew.
Druid.
Um,
Yes, here we go.
yeah, Drew's cool. Right, but there's a cat. Wake up.
Oh my god. There is a cat. There it is. Warlock should have been an undead too. Undead though? Yeah, I mean that's true. These are obviously just randomly picked, so you could go and
Yeah, these
try.
are just on the event server,
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
know.
Mm-hmm. And an undead would
Um,
have looked a bit more warlock, yeah, I suppose, yeah.
yeah.
Hunter? Yeah, let's do Hunter.
I think Monk was colorful too, if I'm remembering.
There we go. Little doggy woggy. Monk. Here it is.
And yeah, you'll also notice if you haven't been tuning into a few of these shows that the armor looks really fancy too. These aren't, our pre-made characters. These are just the cool default armor you see as opposed to, their little
Mm-hmm.
boring robe from
Mm-hmm.
past expansions.
I don't like the warlock one though. The
Yeah, it's a
warlock robe is
little
a little bit boring.
yeah, it's weird because like some of them have tier sets and other ones are like like maybe not as exciting as others.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this one.
Yeah.
Let's see. Which ones have we not looked at yet? Priest.
Uh, yeah, Priest is cool. Like the one thing with Priest is that like their head sort of is almost cut off.
Yeah,
But
it's a
it's
bit high
it's
up.
very sparkly. They don't do anything with the shadow with Priest, and I feel like that's important too.
Mm-hmm. Is there any other classes the chat wants to see? I think we covered everything. No, maybe. Did we do warrior? I don't think we did warrior.
So yeah, I know a lot of people like Warrior, but we should show it. But this one didn't. Bright Paul, why did you unplug this? It didn't get as hype as the other ones we shared. I feel like
It's pretty
Warrior needed
simple.
more
Yeah.
like I don't know, like earthy stone effects or blood or rage or
It kind of does
something.
when it jumps, the earthy
Yeah,
effect, but yeah, you're right.
yeah,
Maybe something more bloody, like a little bit more enraging afterwards.
yeah,
That's true. Oh, we got Paladin too.
yeah.
Here we go. And the Paladin is like a prop Paladin? I don't know. The Paladin one is kind of bad.
Yeah, the paladin is like, I'm swinging my one-handed thing in my shield while healing, and it's like that's a little mixed messages.
Yeah. I think Paladin should have been like a red Paladin with an Ashbringer or something.
Yeah, like I feel like you need Ashbringer with the paladin is better than this sword and shield
Yeah,
combo.
and like Divine Storm or something. I think that looks cooler than this.
Yeah, like a consecration followed by an AoE
Consecration,
ability.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would have
Or
been
have
better.
like the Guardian of Ancient Kings next to you with its wings out. I think
Oh,
that would be
Pop
cooler.
Wings, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Wings. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
that's actually true. It's so iconic. Why does it not pop wings?
Yep.
Bubble Hearth, even. Good ideas in chat.
Yeah. But yeah, hopefully, like, we've seen like 3 or 4 variations of this screen now, so hopefully they can, adjust them pretty easily. Hopefully we'll
Mm-hmm.
see more changes. I think that Paladin and Warrior could use, some love though out of all of these. Maybe Hunter too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's still tons better than what it is now.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's still massive improvements, but we're just comparing them.
Aesthetics, yeah.
Yeah. I think Paladin definitely should have had wings. That was a super missed opportunity because they can have wings in any spec
Wings
doing
and Bubble
anything.
Hearth.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Wings to make the bubble hearth cast faster. Yeah, no, I think that was a missed opportunity. But overall, they look great though. And the UI is a lot simpler to use and much cleaner as well. So it feels better to create a new character.
Yeah. So I don't know if we want a brief spoiler for this next part. It's not there's not too much to say, but maybe for the quest line and the voiceover we should have a spoiler.
Yeah, I agree. And it's
So
up. Yeah,
yeah.
we have a new quest line here.
Right. So we talked in the past about how there's the intro quest line to get into the Maw and how certain faction leaders are stuck there, like Jaina, Anduin, Bane, and Thrall. And when we did the intro quest line, we couldn't rescue them, but we learned that, they were there and time was weird and Halia was showing up and they were imprisoned, and then we escaped without them. But we now can do the next part of the quest line where we go back into Torghast, and with Bolvar's help, we try to rescue those leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems that as we go higher and higher up, it becomes harder to rescue them. But yeah, so we rescue Bane. He doesn't really seem to help much. He seems like he just sort of needs to be rescued. Uh,
Okay.
then,
Mm-hmm.
we also help Jaina. She fights a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and Thrall is higher up and he's more difficult to break out, but we save him as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Also, he doesn't seem to be doing as much as Jaina. Like, still keep in mind he's not tied to the elements like he used to be, so he's like less powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but Bolvar tells us that it was like almost too dangerous to rescue Thrall, and they can't rescue Anduin at this time.
Yep.
I'll read the exact line. It was, "Can you tell us now where Anduin is?" Bolvar says, "I am sorry, but I cannot. Every time I look into the maw, I lower the veil, a veil which shrouds in two directions. I fear that in my last attempt, meaning Thrall, I may have pushed too far. I cannot risk another look for the sake of all of us, for the sake of everything.
Yeah.
For now, when it comes to the maw, we must rely on you meaning the player."
Mm-hmm. So
So,
we'll be the main
yeah.
link between.
Yeah, so Anduin is there. I guess, oh yeah, one interview thing I should mention in relation to this. I know everyone was speculating that Anduin would be stuck in the Maw, and based on Ian saying a month ago that time works differently in the Shadowlands, he was gonna like emerge as like
Really old.
sexy older Anduin. Um,
Yeah.
like like he'd grow a beard and have like more muscles or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Ian clarified in the Bellular interview that he maybe didn't speak correctly when he talked about time in the Shadowlands, and it's more like a dream where you could sleep for 6 hours, but your character does, they experience this dream world where they could maybe be doing things over like an entire day. But it's not like one day in the Shadowlands means that 5 days pass in Azeroth.
Yeah.
So
So
Anduin
no old
is,
Anduin just because he's stuck there.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mm-hmm. Would have been interesting though,
Um,
because a lot of people are really like bored of Anduin, and if we sped up his aging, maybe that would bring a twist, which would make the character a little bit more interesting. But yeah, doesn't seem
Yeah,
like
it's a
that's
little
possible.
sad with Anduin because like I feel there's a lot they could do with him, especially in 8-3 where he was sort of feeling the effects of the void
Mm-hmm.
and Sylvanas wasn't around stealing the
Yeah, I
thunder.
was hoping that it would affect him more.
But I feel like 8-3 was just like, okay, Shadowlands, like move, 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 get through BFA.
BFA, can you quickly finish, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, so
I think it
yeah.
could have been a really interesting thing to explore though, if the corruption affected him more.
Yeah, it's also we'll talk about this a little bit in the book coming soon, but like we have Talanji, who is like in a very similar position. She is, a ruler with magical powers, whose father was like really respected, who fell in battle, and she's struggling how to take over suddenly. And Anduin's in a similar position, but like his story doesn't resonate as much as someone like Talanji.
Mm-hmm.
What is my cat doing?
Kick things down.
Yep.
These things have not been kicked down for exactly 2 months. It's time.
Yep. So that's basically the quest line. We think more is coming. And we also have some Kalthos voiceover. We don't know what this is tied to. We assume the Ventnor Covenant. People are really hyped to hear Kalthos's voice again. So why don't we listen to some of it? Even if we don't want to do the whole thing, I think the first half is fun to listen to. He just sounds like super bratty, and like he seems like really happy to be in the Covenant, and he doesn't seem like, he just seems kind of shameless. He's just like, yeah, like I did what I did.
Yep.
Like, what are you going to do? Like, you want me to like pretend to be sad? So
Okay, let's play it here.
What torment is this?
Oh,
I
sorry, that was a bit
serve
loud.
the Lich King? No, that cannot be. Trouble me no longer. Gold. Why would I need gold? Very well. Is that all? Remember the Sunwell. Do not presume to judge me. I will contemplate my transgressions until you need me. Yet again, all I did was for the Sindorai. You address the Sun King. Is it a sin to fight for survival? My power is mine to wield. If you have something to say, then say it. I can learn to be humble, but never meek. And what would you ask of me? I suppose I have time to listen. The Ventnor can torment me quite well without your help. I thought my deal with Kil'jaeden would save the Sindorai, but it just got worse all the time. As you can see, Magister's Terrace was merely a setback. True arrogance is wasting time pestering a bound soul when the Shadowlands are in peril.
All right, we were gonna listen to half of it, but it became all of it. And in the meantime, I saw Brightpaw just jump up to the top shelf or something.
1 sec.
Oh,
there he is.
Oh no, there's a lot of small things there.
Yep.
Not safe. Not safe. Wait, was that one thing down already?
Yeah, he knocked a Funko Pop. Oh, you know those capsule toys they put in the little arcade machines?
Oh, the dragon. Oh. Wait, is that the Lich King mask?
That's a Deathwing mask from TwitchCon like 2 years
yes,
ago.
yes, Deathwing.
Yeah.
I remember those. I was late to the party, so I never got one.
Oh my god, well he's ridiculous.
He couldn't reach it.
Right.
Lich King Deathwing. No, I said Lich King because I thought Lich King because there was a Lich King one too, and
yeah, it was Villain Con and there were 4 different villains.
yeah, and I got none of them.
This is like the best day of his life right now.
Oh, Murloc down. It's over. It's over. Brightpaw is officially level 10 now. Murlocs have been defeated. Oh, and a dragon. And a second one, maybe.
Let me, as we're discussing Kalthos, let me...
Yeah.
we can see him a little better now.
But yeah, a lot of people love hearing this and hearing how light Kalthos feels about everything.
It sounds like they're trying to make him atone for his sins and purge some excess anima from him, but something goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm curious to see what's going to happen to him. I mean, we know he's part of that raid encounter, and it seems like Sire Denathrius was trying to like corrupt or use him, and now the accuser was trying to. That's what happens when a 15-pound cat jumps on your chair. It moves the chair. And it seems that now the accuser is trying to redeem Kalthos, but he's resistant to her as well. So he just sort of seems to be stuck in the middle, just sort of enjoying himself.
Yeah.
And really curious to see when he sort of actually joins the quest line. But yeah, we still don't know a lot about him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what his role will be.
Yeah. I think we can take the spoilers off for now because we're going to discuss a few customization options.
No more spoilers. Welcome back, everyone. Yeah, we have some new customization options for Void Elves to start with. We have a bunch of the, I think it's the Blood Elf skin tones, which are now available, or which will be available for Void Elves as well. And maybe there were additional ones too that were added.
Yeah, going back to the whole diversity conversation, Blizzard said back in May they were adding all the Blood Elf options to Void Elves, and then the dressing room and the game updated with the Blood Elf tones, but not Void Elves, and in lack of Blizzard communicating, lots of people speculated that, like, Blizzard came to their senses and decided not to go ahead with the Void Elf tone. And it's like, no, they just took longer to implement, here they are. And yeah, now Void Elves have a greater variety of skin tone options, just like the Blood Elves.
Which is always welcome.
And they look really cool against some of the, their hairstyles that have like the tentacle glowy ends at the edges. It's not just like, oh look, they look exactly like a Blood Elf. They still have the unique twists that make it clear they are not just a Blood Elf clone.
Yeah.
And this also includes all the different skin tones. So previously the Void Elves just had the sort of like white purple skin tone, but now they have the full range, like pale options, tan options, dark skin options that the Blood Elves have too. And it's really very strange to see something that resembles a Blood Elf but has, like purple hair with wiggly bits at the end. Like
I love those hair things.
I think it's really smart because not every Void Elf like Ilaria is, walking around cloaked in purple. But when you see something that looks like a regular elf, but like something is a little off with their like a touch of the void, you sort of have to think again. Like it makes you feel a little like off balance, which is, I guess, how the Blood Elves view this group that they had to exile for, like why are you just like a touch different, and like why is the void making us uncomfortable? So we also have more orc female options like jewelry and necklaces and earrings.
Oh yeah. A lot of those. And the body tattoos too, right? Like the war paints?
Yeah, so some of these were added previously, but they now work in the dressing room. And the cool thing about the war paint is that they are different from tattoos. So you can choose body tattoos, like body and face tattoo in green, and then war paint, which is different patterns in a bunch of different colors that go over it. So you can have a lot of different body ornamentation going on as an orc now.
And in terms of the jewelry, was everything new?
Yeah, I believe everything was new. I remember when Mag'har orcs got customization, it was a huge deal that they got necklaces. So it's cool that the regular orcs have necklaces too now.
Yep.
Also, the scars are new as well. So you can have a face tattoo, face war paint, as well as face scars.
Yeah, everything. So you can add everything to it at the same time.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I also really like the earrings because, like with some of these like Blood Elves, it's like, here's a little dainty earring, but with an orc, it's like, oh, they've got like 3 or 4 piercings on one ear, and they're all different types, and some of them like look very like oversized and interesting. So they're just really fun to see. And then finally, with allied race customization, this sounds a little boring at first, but I think it actually adds a lot more freedom. I think it's a very smart thing to do. They started splitting out more details. So, for example, with Zandalari, how they had all those accessories, but you had to choose between like batches of accessories. Yep. Like, do I want the necklace versus do I want the one that has all the earrings? They split that out so you can, say, necklace is one option. The top of the ear piercings is another option. The bottom of the ear is one option, and they just it adds a lot more flexibility how you can mix and match that now.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Giving the
High
option
Mountain
to
Tauren.
choose each part.
Lightforged Renai, tendrils different from their face. High Mountain Tauren, paint and tattoo style are split, and they also have an earring option. Vopera have eye colors separately. And we also talked about the male Tauren having flowers a few weeks ago. The female Tauren now have a flower option too.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that is, you know, in the dressing room. And over the weekend, this wasn't new on Blizzard's end, but it was new tech, so it took a while for the dressing room to update. We now have the option for the Teldrassil burn and scars, as well as the orc scars, and male night elf tattoos to be in the dressing room now. So previously we couldn't actually show this, but over the weekend we got it working. So yeah, so that's the customization.
I think that's it for data mining.
Yep. We had interesting live news. There was a shop mount.
Yeah. Gotta love presenting this type of thing. But yeah, we have a new shop mount. It is just like the few recent ones where you can buy it straight from the shop, or you can decide to sign to a 6-month subscription to then get it like for free. I think it's great that is an option to get the 6-month thing, because a lot of people who play WoW tend to have their sub for long periods of time anyways.
Because it's cheaper that way.
It's cheaper to pay for 6 months at once than 1 month at a time. Having said that, it's only for promotion time though, so later on you have to actually buy it from the store. And I feel like adding more and more mounts like this probably feels quite overwhelming for people.
I wonder,
for new players especially. Yeah, I was thinking, like, you know, as a new player, let's say you start playing this game and then you see all these like so many mounts and pets that are on the store. So it's not that nice that these numbers keep like stacking up. Maybe this promotion thing of 6 months should just always be there.
Yeah, so I had two thoughts. One thought was, I wonder if they're going to retire old mounts, because like the newer, we saw them put some older ones into the vault, but like these newer mounts have like more a lot of interesting things that some of the older shop mounts don't really have. Like, compare this mount, you know, to the Celestial Steed, which was, you know, an invincible recolor.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I mean, this is very unique.
It's like, are these all, you know, worth the exact same amount of money?
That's
and then my second thought was, I wonder about other games. Like, you know, we talk about overwhelming, but I wonder if someone at Blizzard would be like, well, if you play, you know, League of Legends, like, technically you could just, you know, buy every hero. Like, is that more overwhelming? You know, or I mean, well, you can still
I find League overwhelming too.
You know, yeah, and you could be like, well, eventually you could, you know, save up and buy with the in-game currency.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I just wonder if they're gonna be like, oh, it's not that bad. It has a promotion. It's not too many of them. Look at this other game where everything is, you know, viable.
And a point which also makes sense or is valid is that WoW is subscription based, so you're already paying monthly. Which then also raises concerns of like, should they even have these sort of vanity things on top of it? I feel like if there's a few, it's not a big deal, but I feel like now it's maybe a little bit too many. And sure, it's kind of hidden in the free option of 6-month subscription for those of us who may already be on 6-month subscriptions. But for other people, and especially after the promotion, it's a little bit much. I feel like people may feel very overwhelmed by the amount of different mounts, and you made a good point too. Like, some of them are less fancy than others, so maybe they should by default just be a lot cheaper too.
Right. Or like Celestial Steed, Winged Guardian, like the Quillen mount. Like, they're just, when you compare it to the mount special of this Steam Scale Incinerator, it's just like, it doesn't compare. Vulpine Familiar, like, yeah, they're just, the newer ones are just so much like more elaborate in their shading and mount specials and animations.
And maybe like I realize that you can play the game, make the gold, and turn into tokens. But maybe there should be in-game ways of also getting these store mounts, so people who decide to pay for it can, and then other people maybe can grind for it in one way or another. Um, I don't know. It feels like it's a bit too many. I feel like a few here and there could have worked, but now over time, it just feels like too many.
I wonder if they could tie it to, a loyalty program because, they really need people to
That's a
do
good point.
PTR testing.
Yeah.
We've seen hints of a mentorship program, and it's like, maybe we should reward people that are subbed for a long time, or, if someone is testing things daily on the PTR for free,
Mm-hmm.
give them amount for appreciation.
Mm-hmm. Another thing is because I just saw a comment in the chat about not being able to afford 6 months at a time. Maybe give an option where you when you have been sub for 6 months, like just 6 separate months, you kind
Mm-hmm.
of like unlock the possibility to pick amount. I think that could also make sense because at the end of the day, if you've paid for 6 separate months, you are paying more than 6 months in a row. Um, I guess in a similar fashion to like the recruit a friend. In recruit a friend, if your friend has subbed for X amount of months, they can take breaks in between. It doesn't matter. It still counts towards the total number of months. So you get the rewards, like the mount and the transmog and things like that. Maybe the mount system should be additional to this kind of promotion where once you've been subbed for 6 months, maybe you can pick them out. I mean, it'll take you many years anyways to get them
Right.
all. So
Keeps you subscribed.
yeah, like if you've been subbed for 6 months, you pick them out, and then another 6 months, then you pick another one. Like I think that's a bit nicer than like here you have to sub for 6 months at a time because not maybe everyone can do that. I know that I never really did that until like recently. So I completely understand that a lot of people prefer to pay monthly because it's easier that way, to keep track of your economy and everything. To have like monthly bills is much better than paying upfront for 6 months in a row.
Yeah. So one other question I have about this mount is the aesthetics of it. Looking at the video,
Mm-hmm.
and the general style, it looks like a Mechagon
Yeah,
mount.
looks mechanical. Yeah.
And we've been frequently saying that usually when there's a store mount, it's like predicting the future. Like, the Vulpine familiar looks like the fox in Ardenweald, with the text implying that it's come from other realms.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, or in Mop there was the Iron Scale, like the Rylak, which was very popular then in Warlords,
Mm-hmm.
or then in Warlords we had the Mystic Rune Saber, which looked like the Suramar mounts. So usually the art assets predict something in the future, but it seems like in this case this is predicting something. This was something tied to a zone in the past.
Yeah, which is kind of strange too, because then maybe it
Yeah,
should have
because
just been a reward from that content. Because the video
yeah, like
too,
I don't.
it's showing Mechagon, right?
Yeah, so I'm confused on that. It's like, okay, well, the gnomes have some important role to play in Shadowlands, but I don't think so.
Yeah, no, especially because of the trailer video being based in Mechagon. So
Yeah.
it feels like the mount was made a long time ago and maybe wasn't introduced for one reason or another until now.
Yeah, so I'm just curious about that, or if maybe they realized people were predicting the future with the expansions and decided to mix it up.
Oh no! They are
Yeah.
predicting what the next expansion will be about. We need to stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, there it is, another shop mount.
Yeah. So for this final topic, I was given a review copy of Shadows Rising, which came out today. And we have a collaboration with Novel planned, I believe, to go over the plot. So I don't want to just like
Ooh.
recite the plot to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I figured that um, because it's out now, if people had any questions, whether they weren't sure if they wanted to, pick up the book, like is a character featured, maybe you're not into reading, but you'd like me to explain a plot point, or asking if we learn more about, the motivations behind someone, if we go to a certain zone, I'd be happy to answer questions on that. Like, for example, we learn why Bwansamdi and the jailer are not on good terms with each other. We learn more about why Sierra and the Night Elves, like, if they did or didn't choose to, consent to be raised as undead. We see what's up with, Zappy Boy. We even get hints if Sourfang went to the Maw or not. So, people have any questions about that, maybe you can see Annie and I can answer some things. And if no one has questions, I'll just probably explain why the jailer hates Bwansamdi.
I think that's a good topic to mention here. We're keeping track of chat as usual, so if you have any questions on this or anything really, feel free to type it out.
I mean, the book is out, but I don't know if we want spoilers for this, because I don't, I know people don't read quickly.
Since it came out today, so maybe we should put it up to be sure.
Okay.
Maybe people just had their coffee and are like, starting their day and haven't had a moment to read yet. So just to be safe, we will put the spoiler tag up. The topic is the new Shadows Rising novel. So if you don't want to hear about that, you can mute us for the duration.
All right. So the plot is basically that as Talanji is struggling to rule Zandalar and has upset feelings towards other members of the Horde that seem eager to be in a peace treaty while her city and people are hurting, Nathanos is taking advantage of this chaos to harness all the rebels upset with Talanji into a bigger plan to summon and weaken Bwansamdi. Like, if you remember the Allied Race quest line, Talanji was dealing with rebellions and citizens that were upset that she was worshipping Bwansamdi. She had to put that down. So all those characters are back, and Nathanos is sort of uniting them. Now, Bwansamdi is like very chill and charismatic throughout the story. He befriends Zakan, actually calls him Zappy Boy, so that's canon now.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Because, Zakan is sent as a diplomat to Talanji because they're hoping to, work with her, because it's like an interesting parallel to Tyrande. Like, Tyrande is very distrustful of the Alliance, and Talanji is very distrustful of the Horde for being all like, ooh, peace, because they've lost a lot. So Zappy Boy is sort of sent to guard her and try to mend tensions, and instead he sort of is like way in over his head with all of these plots going on. But so Bwansamdi befriends him, and at the start of their friendship, he praises Zakan for his strength of will, and as a token of trust, he shows Zakan a vision of Sourfang in the afterlife, like what Sourfang is experiencing, and it's Sourfang, in the fields with his family. Like, it's very idyllic. So it sort of puts to rest the idea that Sourfang went to the Maw. And then, later on in the novel, we're getting into spoilers, Zakan is very badly burnt when he is trying to save children from the temples being desecrated to provoke Bwansamdi. And he actually slips into unconsciousness and goes to the Maw, and Bwansamdi brings him back to life, and Zakan's like, wait, I thought you said the afterlife was, peaceful, like, why was I in hell? And then Bwansamdi reveals that he has been looking out for the trolls and diverting the souls away from the Maw so they wouldn't be stuck there, since the jailer and Sylvanas started this. So the jailer wants Bwansamdi out of the way because he is disrupting his plans to put everyone into the Maw, and it also answers the question of, you know, didn't Dazar'alor just give the jailer a ton of dead troll souls? And it's like, well, no, if Bronsamdi was always looking out for them, then Dazar'alor didn't go towards the jailer or Sylvanas, so they also probably really dislike him for, taking that battle away from them too.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's where we have it. We have, Bronsamdi is thwarting the jailer's plans. And it ends with the showdown between the Thanos, Bronsamdi and Talanji working together, fighting the Thanos. The Thanos has a vial of, like, I don't know, magic that he takes to escape at the last second, because Thanos keeps escaping.
Yep, always.
Goes to Icecrown Citadel. This takes place right after the cinematic. And Sylvanas is upset that he didn't defeat Bronsamdi, and she just, like, ignores him and just vanishes into the shadows and tells him to go to, his old home in Eastern Plaguelands, which is where, we've seen him on the beta. And it's really strange because, like, the Thanos does a lot of really, he's not a sympathetic character in Shadows Rising, but you can tell he's devoted to serving Sylvanas, and there's, like, little asides about their past, and, like, he keeps a memento from her on him. And it's just, you do get a sense that something has really changed or is wrong if when he reaches Sylvanas and she just dismisses him, and the language uses that, she doesn't care, she has bigger things to focus on. Like, you do feel kind of sorry for him that he was, like, so devoted and, like, had feelings and wanted to help and serve her and felt bad he failed. And we see him trying to do this very complicated mission, whether it was right or wrong, and she just is like, did you do it? No. Like, she just, like, she has no feelings left about that all.
And this is after, as a reminder to people, this is after he referred to her as his love. And do you think these things are happening as some kind of build-up to where he gets sick of her?
I mean, I think, so I could see it going two ways. He seems to be a boss in Shadowlands, probably the pre-patch, and there's a cinematic that plays at 10%. So I see it going one or two ways. In the boss, the dialogue, he sounds like an asshole. Like, he's making fun of Sourfang. He's just making fun of us. Like, he still seems really Team Sylvanas. I feel like
Team Sylvanas.
He's going. Yeah. He's, like, either going to die in the cinematic, and he'll be, like, calling on Sylvanas for help, and she'll be,
and she
like,
won't be there.
Right, and then like he'll just, like, we won't feel sorry for him, but he'll just seem really pathetic as he dies. Or I think if she does save him, maybe something weird will happen in the Shadowlands with them. But like, he just seems really one note. Like, he just keeps escaping because he's got some trick up his sleeve, and he just seems like emotional, like, not just like single-minded devotion to pleasing Sylvanas, but otherwise just being horrible and unfeeling to everyone else. And it's it's very oh yeah, do you remember the short story where he got his, like, new body and face, the Dark Mirror story?
Oh yeah.
So, like, in that short story, basically Sylvanas does a ritual to transform him back into a more, like, less decaying undead, and she uses his cousin, and there's a flashback where Sylvanas, before she was turned, was, like, very charismatic and kind to the cousin, and now the cousin is being killed to essentially be turned into the Thanos. There's a scene where Bronsamdi actually cloaks himself in the illusion of, like, Nathanos' cousin, and is, like, accusing him for his sins and being like, look how much you've turned, you've totally lost yourself. Yeah, like, it's like, remember, like, you were my hero, and, like, now you just went along when Sylvanas, like, murdered me, like, I'm haunting your past. And, it's, I would like to see some
does he know it's Bronsamdi?
Yeah, Bronsamdi reveals himself after. And then, like, taunts him and goes away. But yeah, I would just like to see more character growth for
Yeah, I want to see
Nathanos,
something
besides
happen.
being like, it's like, I mean, there's like literal, like, he was about to torture children at a temple. It's just like, this guy is just
Yep.
not likable.
Yep.
Um, there was kind of interesting Tyrande and Syrah development in it though. Um, and it did touch upon like the Horde's reaction to Teldrassil, because we keep saying like, why are we not hearing what the Horde has to say about this?
Mm-hmm.
Tyrande is at one point she sends for Thrall, and Thrall is just like doing basic apologies, and she just like unloads on Thrall and is like, I don't want an apology. Like, you need to show you're sorry through actions. Like, I don't care that you guys are saying you're sorry. She just goes off on him, and it's a really cool scene where like the nature surrounding her, as she's getting more angry, it's losing its color because she's so furious with him. Um, and yeah, it just like finally brings to light, like, oh, you didn't actually do anything. You're just coming with your, words that are meaningless. So Thrall then realizes that, yeah, he has to do his part to track down Sylvanas in return for Teldrassil. And you start having more and more Horde characters be like, yeah, this was really shitty that we were complicit with. So that was actually promising. And then at the end, Sierra Moonwarden, she got raised by Nathanos. When Nathanos vanishes, Sierra was on the mission with him, and she is captured and brought back to Tyrande. And Thrall's like, I know this isn't Sylvanas, but by returning, your fallen warden to you, hopefully this is a step showing that we want to, help you, heal and come to the bottom of this tragedy.
Yeah, like
And we
somewhat of a
learn,
closure. Yeah.
yeah, we learned that Sierra did not consent to be raised as undead. Like, Tyrande comes in and she's all furious with Sierra, and I think she's about to kill her. And she's like, you made this choice. Like, how dare you? Like, you've turned on us. You're now trying to, kill the Night Elves, and you're supporting the Sylvanas who tried to kill this. And Sierra's like, I didn't have a choice to come back. She's like, I was brought back and twisted into this.
Yep.
And now all Sierra feels is vengeance, and it's just, it was always like, did Sylvanas, or did she force the Night Elves to come back as undead? And in the case of Sierra, it's pretty apparent that, yeah, she did not want to be raised, and she was twisted into coming back.
Yep.
So that was a pretty big reveal.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, that it is.
And she was kept alive, and now that she's talking to Tyrande and Maiev and Chandris again, it's like, is this a step of healing where the, former, like, new undead elven rangers, are they going to be now loyal to Tyrande once again, now that they've, been broken free of Sylvanas? I mean, I think that would be one step of closure, because it did feel pretty bad. It's like, oh, Tyrande's the Night Warrior now, but
yeah, she never got her closure.
Right, and that's like, oh, like, but then some of her like loyal lieutenants now got, brainwashed by Sylvanas and hate Night Elves. So it feels like maybe this is the first step to undoing that type of mind control as the Ardenweald story continues. But I'm happy that Tyrande was in the book, because I know we talked about it with the Elven short story, how we thought it was strange that Lorthamar was expressing regrets for following Kael'thas, but not expressing regrets for the burning of Teldrassil, which is much more, recent. So I'm happy that they actually put her in the story, as opposed to, I don't know, having it all take place in Dazara lore.
Yeah. And this novel is basically like the build-up towards Shadowlands, right?
Right. So it basically, like, the epilogue, as the Bolvar Sylvanas fight is taking place, the Bwonsamdi Nathanos fight is taking place.
Gotcha.
And the epilogue where he teleports to her takes place like minutes after the cinematic.
Cool.
So that's the time frame.
Yeah. It's awesome to have these novels in between things. Yeah?
Yeah, I just thought of this, like, Nathanos is thinking like, oh, Bwonsamdi, survived, but Sylvanas, finished her plan. And Sylvanas is thinking like, oh, Nathanos took care of Bwonsamdi, like, I'll let Bolvar stay alive. And, maybe that maybe that was a mistake on their end. Like, they thought that they were removing all of the obstacles, but Bwonsamdi and Bolvar are both still alive.
Yeah.
So maybe their, plan didn't really. Maybe they got a little cocky, or, Sylvanas shouldn't have, they didn't realize both of those, agents of death would still be alive and not happy with them. But yeah, so if people have any more questions about things in the book, oh yeah, also Sylvanas does not actually show up until the epilogue page.
Really?
So, yeah, she just is there on the last page. She, she's mentioned obviously, but
she's busy.
There's no scenes from her point of view. Like, maybe with Before the Storm, maybe they realized it was difficult to have things from her point of view in a way that wouldn't give things away. So maybe that's why, she wasn't there.
Oh, yeah, because she might be doing things that will spoil things for us later.
Right, like, you wouldn't want it to be like, oh, Sylvanas thinks about, like, how happy she is that Nathanos is helping her, but it's like, in reality, she doesn't care. So maybe they figured it was too complicated for her point of view, just keep her at the very end.
Okay, she went to have a quick discussion with the jailer, and I think that makes sense. That makes sense to keep it more mysterious.
Yeah. And, like, I still think it was very effective how, we see Nathanos, like, being, like, desperately, like, following her, doing all these things, and she just, like, dismisses him, and, like, he's too afraid to talk to her. Like, it's very sad, even though he's not a likable character. Like, you're following his journey for 300 pages, and she just doesn't want to hear why he failed. She's just disgusted with him and then forgets about him. Like, 5 minutes later, she focuses on something else.
Yeah. I want Nathanos to have a turning point and do something different. And not just be a puppy.
I mean, especially how we've learned that, Syrah didn't want to be acting how she did. It's like, maybe when characters are freed from Sylvanas' influence or magic, they act differently as well. Like Nathanos.
I'd like to see that.
So, does anyone have any questions on other characters that show up or do something?
There was one question. The question is, are there any good moments with WoW's power couple, Ilaria and Tyrallion?
Oh yeah, so they could have gotten a little more screen time, but when we left off in Three Sisters, it seemed like their relationship was not very good, with the Void always telling her to kill him. It's way better now. Like, they seem to have understood each other's weird magical powers. They are sent interrogating the countryside for villagers that may have been harboring members of Sylvanas' ship, related to the Bwonsamdi plot, and they use the powers of the light and void together to interrogate the civilians. So, for example, Tyrallion has these light shackles, while Ilaria then uses the void to peer in and see if they're lying or not. So that seems to be like a really dramatic turnaround from the void, telling Ilaria to kill Tyrallion. So they're working together in a very strange way. And then there's also a very hilarious, awkward dinner party with Ilaria, Tyrallion, Jaina, and her mother, where the servants, like, won't speed up the dinner, and Tyrallion's not very...
in the novel?
Tyrallion's, like, not very chatty. Jaina is distrustful of Ilaria and also doesn't like her interrogation methods, and Ilaria is not eating anything. Ilaria is just drinking wine, and Jaina's mom is asking the servants to, hurry up the courses, and they're like, no, we have more courses, and she's like, I want way more wine. So
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's such a random scene like that.
Yeah, there's a few interesting, funny scenes. Like, there's another scene where Anduin talks about how he disguises himself and goes down to Goldshire and pretends to have, like, a new name and just wants to, hang out, and it helps with his anxiety. even I mean, like it's cool. Like it humanizes him a bit. How being king is too much, so he has to go unwind and relax.
Mm-hmm.
And also he's pretending to be a recruit, and the other recruits are like, oh yeah, my family came from this campaign. They were doing something in Nyalotha. Like I think they were fighting like an obelisk, or was it a tower? Like there was lots of tentacles. Like it's like everyone, like no one knew what to call the buildings in A3. So it's nice when there's like little irreverent moments of
Yeah.
humor, like little inside jokes like that.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah, that
but
sounds
yeah,
awesome.
Ilaria and Turalyon are on way better terms than I would have thought. Like I honestly thought that one of them was going to kill the other
Yeah, like go
in the
insane.
novel,
Yeah,
until I saw them, both alive doing things in the various quest lines.
yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
when I saw the novel, I'm like, oh, like one of them is going to die for
Oh
sure.
no. Well, it turned out a bit more positive then. So
Yeah.
maybe they can still be the power couple.
I mean, they sort of are, especially. I mean, this is all spoilers, but if the data mined audio with Anduin in the novel puts Turalyon in charge over Gen Greymane
Mm-hmm.
because he thinks Turalyon's more level-headed. Then, we learn in the pre-patch Anduin is stuck in the Maw.
Yeah.
So Turalyon is in charge. So, they really are a power couple if he is in charge of
And yeah.
Stormwind in Anduin's absence.
Mm-hmm. I wonder what that's gonna mean to Anduin if he will change.
I mean, it's there's always like, hints that the light could be sinister. And
Mm.
with Yrel and the Magkor
Mm-hmm.
orcs, and now we've got Turalyon
Mm-hmm.
actually like shackling the villagers with the
Yeah.
light handcuffs. Um, they've always made Anduin out to be like, Anduin can't do anything wrong because
Yeah,
he's a
that's the
pure being
thing.
of light. Like his
Yeah.
bones ache if he thinks about doing something wrong from the Mist of
Mm-hmm.
Pandaria quest line. So
Yep.
I
That,
mean,
that that's why I think it would be
yeah.
cool if something would change a little bit, or something happen, something interesting. Because I feel like that was a little bit of a missed opportunity with the corruption thing when we saw like how he changed slightly, was a bit more angry towards Rathian. If we could see something like some kind of progression like that on his personality, I think that could be really interesting, and put a little bit more like flavor into his character. Because I think a lot of people are really bored with like, oh, he's such a good guy, would never do anything wrong.
Like I was saying, like he has these very clear parallels to Talanji, but Talanji in the book is allowed to be angry. She
Mm-hmm.
is, upset at the alliance. She is upset that the Horde is just going along with this peace treaty
Mm-hmm.
and is apparently not thinking of her. She is really feisty to Bwansamdi. She even has a line how growing up she wanted to be queen, but she didn't like the idea that she had to be married and have a family, and like she would want to change
Mm.
the rules when she was ruling.
Mm-hmm.
And Anduin, it's
A
a
lot more
similar thing.
personality.
Father,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like father died, very young ruler, but he just seems to be sort of crushed under the weight of responsibility, and maybe that's his personality, but there should be scenes like showing him like not just staying in this limbo position,
Mm-hmm.
like having more character growth. And I think people really like the Broken Shore quest line with him when he went to the Broken Shore and mourned his father.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like more of that, thinking about Varian and trying to move forward, and actually expressing frustration and realizing
Yeah.
that if he's a good person, like if he can't, if he does nothing, everyone, no one will be upset with him, but like he won't do anything like for the greater good. Like he needs to take a stand and do something even if it upsets some people. Like, I feel like he just sort of is more timid because he doesn't want to upset anyone, but he's
Yeah.
also not helping anyone.
Yeah, it becomes like a sort of indecisive kind of feeling of a character. And that's not very nice. Also, like he's stuck in the maw. I don't think anyone thinks that he's gonna actually like get lost or disappear or die or something. So
Right.
something interesting has to happen, and I feel like touching on his personality is probably the best way
I
for
also feel
something.
like they've set up this, contrast with him and Sylvanas where she's like, "Ha ha, little lion, I have outsmarted you." And then it's like Sylvanas like flies away in a poof of magic, and she's clearly the more powerful one. And it just, it feels like, Anduin is not really getting his badass moment, always being, outsmarted by Sylvanas.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it would be interesting payoff if he could, finally escape from the Maw or stand up to her in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Because like it's just been like like years of like put downs with Sylvanas at this point,
Yeah.
or feeling out tricked by her.
Mm-hmm. For sure. There's a question, actually.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on Gen versus Tyrellian? Do you feel the walking chandelier should be the one to take the reins of Stormwind, or do you think Gen has more experience? Also, do you think because Tyrellian is light and has had more wartime experience, he deserves to be in command? Yeah, so this kind of touches what you were talking about before.
Yeah. So I feel like Gen is like more of a father figure to Anduin, and he has sort of hot-headed anger issues. Like he goes from being like sealed away in Gilneas, not
Mm-hmm.
wanting to do stuff, and then he's like angry at Sylvanas, and has shown that he exercised, poor judgment, very sort of rash and hasty in the past. Plus, he is also dealing with the Worgen needing to rebuild again, being, refugees from Teldrassil. So I feel like he's not the right choice, and he tends to jump to conclusions where he thinks all the Horde are evil,
Mm.
and he always is looking for like the most pessimistic um option.
Mm.
And I think that he needs to be an advisor for sure, and I think that he can, if he advocates for things like helping the night elves and Worgen, I think that's a very valuable voice. But I don't think I think he has a lot of anger issues that cloud his judgment, that make him act rashly and don't think about like other perspectives.
Do you think now with not Maw, with Anduin being in the Maw, and Tyrellian getting more, I guess, power, being in charge,
Yeah.
might lead to some friction between the two?
Oh, definitely. Especially there was that data mine dialogue where I think Shaw was basically like, "So yeah, Tyrellian's cool, but don't you think you should be sitting on the throne?"
Mm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I could see there being some division if it's like the Stormwind Old Guard wanting things to be the status quo, while you have like the Night Elves and the Worgen and maybe some other factions questioning what is the Alliance doing for us really.
Mm-hmm.
Like we saw the Horde realize that the War Chief wasn't a good leadership model for them, and they
Yeah.
overthrew it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of like, yeah, like why are these ancient mystical beings under the leadership of 18-year-old Anduin?
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
on the
yeah,
topic of leadership, Tyrande kind of comes in too there because she wasn't happy with how things were handled either.
yeah, I mean, like she just went off and she's like, Anduin's not helping me. I got to do this myself.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see what happens if she gets any closure from Ardenweald, if she
Mm-hmm.
will still be upset with Anduin, or
Yeah, or if she
if
feels
she,
at peace.
yeah. I mean, Dazar'alor was such a weird time for Anduin because he didn't help Tyrande
Mm-hmm.
with the Darkshire Warfront, and then the plan he wanted to really devote his energy towards, Dazar'alor, just didn't make sense. Like he was like, "Oh, I didn't mean to kill, King Rastakhan. I thought he'd surrender." Like that was just so convoluted. Why the Alliance went in and did that?
Yeah.
And it's like he didn't really seem to do much of anything in that patch. He didn't help the other members of the Alliance. He used a ton of Alliance resources and soldiers, and he didn't plan on the outcome they got from that at all. Like he wanted the Zandalari to, I guess, be under the control of the Alliance, and that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So that really just feels like a big strategic blunder.
I'm just reading up on chat if there's more questions. I think it's mostly comments. There's a few that are like small paragraphs of comments. Perculia is blinged out. Yes, she is.
Yeah, I usually like wearing these rings. I don't wear them as much when I'm typing, because
Oh, they get
they clink a
annoying.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But if we're doing the show or just like walking outside, I like to wear them. Also,
Mm-hmm.
just like sometimes people think I look young, but if you have jewelry on, they tend to bother you less. Like they assume you're not, 15 years old if you are wearing like, you know,
Like big
like
jewelry.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm. Do we think Tyrion is going to be in the Maw? Is another
uh,
question.
so that's interesting because we have Uther and Bastion. Um,
Yes.
it's tricky because like Bonsomdi made it seem like Sourfang was not in the Maw, and we don't know why. Like we don't know. Sourfang died after Tyrion, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so it's like, did Bonsomdi also decide to be nice to Sourfang and rescue him from the Maw? Because if Sourfang didn't go to the Maw normally, then you would also think Tyrion was, safe from the Maw. I think it would be interesting if Tyrion was in the Maw because if Uther's going to be a major character, I could see Tyrion also having some sort of role. And in the Death Knight class campaign, they wanted to uh, turn Tyrion into a member of one of the Four Horsemen. Before realizing that was a bad idea.
Mm.
So now that Death Knights and Bolvar is back again, I think maybe they'd be like, yeah, so about Tyrion,
Mm-hmm.
whatever happened to him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm still waiting for the Uther updates too. Ever since the upgrade or the update to the arts in Eastern Plaguelands, I'm just like waiting.
Yeah, a few people asked about that in the interviews, and Blizzard was just like, that was probably like an intern project. We were updating the general area for, Battle for Undercity, and we wanted to update the tomb, but they don't think there's going to be like a big
Really?
scene there.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was so
But
fancy.
I
It was
mean,
so well done.
yeah. I do think it'd be interesting to have Tyrion come back in some form, though.
Hmm.
Especially if like all the other characters related to the Lich King, are playing roles like Sylvanas is doing stuff,
Mm-hmm.
Bolvar is doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Jaina is freed. Kalia is showing up at Ice Crown because
Oh yeah.
she is the
Mm-hmm.
sister of Arthas. It just seems like a lot of characters tied to Arthas are, Uther is there. Uther was killed by Arthas. It just seems like there's a lot of characters tied to him, and it would make sense for Tyrion to be present as well. Plus, like he's like a fan favorite character. Everyone loves him.
Yeah. Very true.
Yeah. I wonder if when we're going to see Vol'jin again, because yeah. Speaking of characters, he was not in Shadows Rising, and he was advising,
Oh yeah, that's interesting.
Talanji
Yeah.
earlier. So it's like, well, Vol'jin must be up to some serious shit if he is not able to
Not
help
mentioned.
Talanji.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm curious to see what is up with him. But yeah, he must be finding some pretty interesting stuff on his
Mm-hmm.
expeditions there.
Yeah, because it's because of him that Savannah's got to become war chief. So
Right, and he wanted to look
that's pretty
into
big.
and he was the one that was like, something is wrong here.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
who
and he
sent
went to
me
ask
back?
questions everywhere. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then we started getting the hints that like, oh, like the Lich King is not really friends with Sylvanas, but
Mm-hmm.
somebody is not really friends with
Yeah, like
Sylvanas. Why
nobody
is this
likes
all
her.
happening?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it seems like
That's
there's. I
surprising.
know they talk about like this pantheon of death, but I'm also getting where like the faction leaders for each zone are important, like the Arbiter, the Jailer, like Sire Denathrius, the Winter Queen. But I'm also getting a vibe of this coalition of characters that like you know can be in both realms or have like this alternate take where you've got like Bolvar and you have Vol'jin and you have Bwonsamdi. Like you have these alternate set of characters that are associated with death that are trying to work with humans more. Like they go between realms.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be interesting to see if there's like a little coalition of more approachable, powerful leaders as opposed to like this is the Winter Queen who is mystical that we've never seen before.
Yeah. We have another
But
question
yeah,
here. Do you think the jailer is a being that was made slash born inside the Shadowlands, or if he's an entity from elsewhere having been imprisoned and forced to be the jailer? Ooh,
that's interesting,
big
especially
questions. Mm-hmm.
if we learn that like the Night Warrior is from where
A
is present on
different
other
world.
realms,
Yeah.
and a loon is worshipped on multiple realms, then the jailer could be a concept as well that comes from other realms. Especially if it seems like the jailer and his ideas were like foiling a loon's power, they might be like, I don't like the yin and yang.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there is something to be said about the jailer being imprisoned of some sort because the arbiter has the glowy anima in her chest cavity while the jailer is empty. Um, I think that even if he came from another realm, there's still the question of like who are these first ones that have seem to be like a higher power than the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe the first ones created the jailer on another planet or entity, and then he was captured
Mm-hmm.
and set to work in the Shadowlands.
Should I take down the spoiler tag, by the way?
Yeah,
Or
I mean
yeah,
it
I
is
feel
sort of
like
spoilery. I don't know. Yeah,
yeah, I was a little bit unsure because we're not going through specific things in the book anymore or the novel,
yeah,
but we're kind of like discussing things that might touch. I feel like
yeah.
maybe we can put it down so people who
Yeah,
didn't
I
want to
feel
hear about
like
the
I don't
book
think new
can
people are
listen.
joining the stream, and it's like pretty obvious that this is a Shadowlands stream, so we're going to be talking about
Yeah,
Shadowlands.
yeah. I think so. Just in case there's people who muted this part, I feel like they could also take part in
Yeah,
this.
but yeah, I mean, like if you're not sure if you wanted to read the book or not, I definitely think it's a good read.
Yeah, I'd like to read it.
Lots of like factions and characters have like very cool moments. Like everyone
Mm-hmm.
has like their little moment to shine.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a lot of the book takes place in the Horde City, but then, like I said, you've got like Ilaria and Turalyon on the road trip, and the interesting parts with Tyrande, and even like Anduin, and then Jaina with the dinner party. There's lots of characters that are, have cool moments. It feels like an ensemble story. It's not just focusing on one or two characters.
Mm-hmm. Are the other covenants going to be up in beta or just still Venthyr?
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. Probably not straight away, but probably soon.
Also, the Venthyr was not very fully implemented. Like we
No.
played through the quest line, and I think we did like 2 chapters out of 8.
Mm-hmm. And I think there were even some placeholders in the Soulbinds.
Yeah, and like many of the conduits were not available for
Mm-hmm.
classes. I think just
Oh yeah, I
mage
think
and
it was only
warrior had them.
3 classes.
Monk and
Or was it
warrior, and
2?
yeah,
Monk,
yeah, it
warrior,
was not that
mage,
many.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Who was your favorite character overall in the book? That's a question in the chat.
Yeah, I'm thinking about this. So like, I actually really like Talanji, even though I'm Alliance. And I think it was because you could really identify with her trying to rule as someone that is like naturally talented as a leader, but
Mm-hmm.
has like was thrust into it at a very young age and had the complications of Wansambi. I think she's really feisty. I like how she's trying to respect some traditions that her ancestors have, but it's like also very strong-willed and like values her independence and um, doesn't follow other traditions. I like how similar to Tehran, she's a little skeptical of like, yay, peace, let's move beyond everything, and is like asking about reparations and how Dazar Lore will get help, and is asking the tough questions instead of just smiling and going along.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a lot of really fun dialogue lines as well, and even just like sassing Thrall, sassing Blansamdi.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's the
you
impression I
can tell that
got
she,
of her from the game too. Like she's got a
yeah,
cool personality. Yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
So like she's a cool personality, but
Mm-hmm.
like she's also very vulnerable, and you can see how
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult for her to rule with such short notice, and people rioting that she is partnered with Bonsam. There's even like a really fun moment where she's like trying to get out of the deal with him, and then like you see her mature through the book, and she's still feisty, but is less like contrary for the sake of being contrary. So yeah, she was a really fun character. Besides that, Zakan was fun to follow as well. Like at first, he was just a meme character in the cinematic, and then he was like, like sort of like like a stand-in as Sourfang's son, and his personality keeps being developed more and more as another character that's like more of that can be a standalone one that's not like, oh yeah, the foil for Sourfang in that cinematic. He's like coming into being his own his own character, and it's nice to see fresh younger blood in the Horde, because we're so used to like Thrall and like Bane and all these characters that are much older. So it's nice to be like, this is another generation. Speaking of Thrall, they keep talking about how his like joints are aching. So like he's like oh no, is like Thrall getting arthritis here? Like is he getting too old for all this bullshit? Oh yeah, we learned there was like weird speculation that his family had died because they weren't in the cinematic. They are alive. He just decided he didn't want them to be involved in like politics, and they are staying back at the farm. But they did not die in the in the cinematic with Sourfang.
That's good.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we'll see Zappy Boy become Zappy Man.
Yeah, I mean he does really heroic things at the end. I also appreciate like there were some romances that were set up, but I like appreciate how Talanji at the start was just like, I don't have time for this or kids, and Zakan is like her friend and like a bodyguard, but there's no romantic hints really between them. So it just was, it's like nice when you just sort of see just like a healthy like platonic like friendship of like people like just protecting each other and being respectful of each other, as opposed to like, well, like Talanji said she was independent, but like then Zakan came along, like like it didn't fall into any of those cliches, so that was nice.
Isn't Thrall in his early 30s?
I don't know, like they keep talking about how like between the aches and like the pains of being part of the council, but not like before he was like the war chief, and now he's ruling again, but it's a council, so he has to listen to everyone argue, and like they're conveying in the book how it's taking this toll on him, just being like, oh, in the past I could just decide what to do, but that was easier, but that's not like that's not healthy. We need to compromise, and like just he's like dealing with headaches and just feeling like short temper, having to deal with everyone arguing at the start of the book.
I feel like I would never guess for him to be early 30s. Well, unless like age is different in World of Warcraft, I feel like he gives the impression of being older than that.
Yeah, I would think so too. Especially like, and yeah, I think I would think he would have to be older as well. Oh, also, I mean, the spoiler tag is off, but if you wanted some resolution on like King Rastakhan, there's some for him as well.
Cool. Yeah.
Going back to what I said about, Bwan Samdi helping the trolls in the spoiler section. So
3.5 hours. Are you guys getting any water?
I finished my
I
glass.
Mine too.
Yeah, so mine's here. It's empty. Yeah.
I think I have like 2 drops.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Bright Paws here. Even he's like, I'm tired of knocking things down. I knocked everything down. There's nothing more I can do.
Can you put everything up again so I can knock them down again? Yeah, no, but there's been a lot of topics today worth talking about. A lot of Shadowlands systems being in, and then we have these lore things as well. The novel came out today, so it's a bit of a longer show.
But it was fun. I had a lot of good discussions on this. I wonder if there's going to be even more stuff next week. Well, the beta will have been out by then, so that's exciting.
Oh yeah, that will most likely be a bunch of new data mining too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stevan getting ready.
Yeah. We didn't do the data mining stream last week just because that was during the event, and we were still like, should we post this or should we not? So it just didn't make sense to, you know, do that. But yeah, right, Paul. Why are you stretching out?
And yes,
He's
Wowhead
like
Weekly.
overheating my computer. Yeah.
Wowhead Weekly will go back to Mondays. This was just a one-off. So
Yeah.
we'll be back next week, Monday. Thank you guys for answering
Yeah, you're doing
my
a thing with
questions.
Gallywix, and we're actually we're doing some of their upcoming giveaways
Cool.
with them too. So we have a thing. I think I need to post it today about how we are involved or promoting their next thing. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's really nice seeing Gallywix getting more involved in community things, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading a question. I think not question, statement. Comment. Thank you guys for answering my questions. I'm heading out. Stay healthy and stay safe. I see you all in the Shadowlands. Back to you and to everyone in chat.
Well, I think we're about wrapping up.
Yeah. Or Perk, did Garish do something wrong? Last question from chat.
I mean, like, yeah, he did do something wrong. Although I will say that, like, I thought he had an interesting character portrayal in his Cataclysm short story and then Stone Talon Mountain. And I think his descent could have been explained with some more nuance, but the early stuff on him was actually pretty interesting. He was not as much a cartoon character before Mr. Pandaria.
Cartoon character. Yeah. And with that, it's a wrap of the show. We'll be back next week, Mondays, and probably talk about beta and whatever new else that we will learn from that.
I am going to attempt to pick up the cat.
Good luck.
Come on, baby cat.
Yep.
Yes,
Thank you
are
all
a baby cat.
for watching. Support.
High five. Come here, Bright Paw.
Your camera just. Oh, it's back. It's extremely zoomed in.
He pulled the cap. He pulled the USB out that has the good camera.
Oh,
Is
okay.
it
It's fine.
Right paw.
Yeah, it works fine. It's a little bit more zoomed in so we can see you better.
Right paw, come on. Here we go. And then I might change back in a sec.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Look at him.
Now we can end the show.
So happy.
He just wants to eat my flower.
Yeah. We also got a sub just now. Fury2. Thank you very much for the Prime sub. Yeah, the other camera was more zoomed in, but more noisy. Oh, now we can see how happy and content he looks. Yeah.
Baby.
Do you think you're able to do a high five?
Yep.
All
we
right,
can do a high
let's
five.
do it.
Right paw.
Let's do it.
This is the head, right?
Yep, that's the one.
Okay.
So you
Ready,
do the
right
countdown.
paw? Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, we did it. Bright Paw is very, very proud of us.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll be back
his hand too.
next week with updates on the beta, whether that comes out tomorrow or Thursday, we'll see. And with anything else that might be surprising about it, we'll talk about it then. For now, thank you guys so much for supporting, watching, commenting, and getting involved in the different discussions that we have here. When it's pre-patch, we don't know. No date.
We don't know any dates. We don't even know when beta is this week.
Yeah, true. We don't even know when the beta is. Probably Wednesday or Thursday. Probably Wednesday, but we don't actually know. It could be Friday, for all we know. But yeah, it's a good point. I'm still looking forward to learning when the pre-patch is, when the release date is. I did think that we would know both by now, but apparently we don't.
Don't.
Yep. Yeah, thank you guys so much, and we'll see you all next week, Monday. Bye-bye. You were muted there.
Oh, no.
Oh, maybe it's fine.
I think we're fine.
Okay. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
See you next week.